Hi, everyone. It's Holden again, back with another podcast 7 months after the first one. The whole once a month thing's going pretty well so far. Today, I have a guest. You will probably already know who they are, considering where we're all from. I'm just going to let them introduce themselves if they want to.
Yeah, my name is Jack Cornelius. I'm also known as Captain Garrison or Garry or Garrison. And appreciate Holden for having me on and chatting about things. I'm sure, like he said, I'm sure most of the people who are listening to this will probably know who I am. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. It was an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just going to be really awkward for a bit while we get used to this.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so we'll start off with somewhat simple. What have you been up to recently?
Well, I went to the beach last week, so not a whole lot of much. I've been I've been off work. I've been out of work. That is more accurate. And off school because of all of this stuff that's happening. And so I've been having a lot of time kind of to myself to work on things and do things, but I've also just been playing a lot of games, trying to read more comics lately. Been wanting to start Hellboy. But yeah, I've been playing through the Halos as they come through Master Chief Collection. That's been really interesting, especially since so many people I know are really into that series, and I'm having this kind of fresh perspective as someone who's never even touched them outside of couch split screen multiplayer.
Yeah. I remember it being a really big thing when they got rid of that. I think it was in 4. They launched it and it just didn't have the split screen multiplayer, and everyone was like really pissed.
Yeah, and it's not in the Master Chief Collection at all either.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever in any of the PC ones or something like that.
It might not have been in the PC versions, but that's something that was interesting to me, that I don't think it has LAN either, which was like, I mean, that's not really a thing anymore, LAN parties, as much as it used to be, but it's just kind of has a generic matchmaking sort of thing for co-op.
I know the Xbox versions all use of LAN, but because I played a little bit of the first one, like multiplayer. I mean, I played a little bit of the first one's multiplayer at like church retreat thing that I went to when I was younger. So that was all right. That was actually the first time I played Halo. I think I was like 9, something like that.
Yeah, I played a lot at friends' houses, and I think Reach was the one that I played the most, and Reach is fine, but
Yeah.
it's been interesting. It's just been interesting going back through those campaigns, or going through those campaigns for the first time, rather, and all of these things that I've heard about and known about, and having an interesting perspective on those kind of as they're getting released. Because the Master Chief Collection released on PC, but it only had Reach at first. And when it released on Xbox, and it had the whole thing, Reach through 4. So
yeah, because like on the Xbox versions, they were basically just like, I think the old ones were running off the emulation, and then the newer ones were just the versions that came out on those consoles anyway. Whereas for PC, it was all basically all redone. So they released it with the first one that they've been working on, and then as they finished working on them, added the new ones. I think that was like basically how it went.
So it had the anniversary versions for 1 and 2, which were, it's really cool. I think it's tab. You just press it and it switches between the original graphics and the updated remastered graphics, like on the fly. And so that's really interesting. There's some things like in 2, the audio is like at very different levels between the remastered and the original, and there's some weird things like that. And then 3 just released last week, and I played through that. It's interesting because 1 and 2 were both original Xbox games, and so since 3 was the first one on the 360, it was interesting that they didn't really update it like they did 1 and 2 because they didn't really have as much of a need to update it,
Yeah.
but yet it still felt like kind of a downgrade from the updated versions of 1 and 2,
Yeah.
especially in the cutscenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually, I just realized that I was thinking that I'd played. Well, no, I did play all of them, but I knew that I didn't get into them like when they first came out because I didn't even own an Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like reminded me that like I didn't actually get into the series till Reach. I don't know why I'd like never thought about this, but I actually like the first Xbox console I owned was the Reach Special Edition 360.
Mm.
I got that with Reach, and I can't remember if I played Reach first or if I actually did play them in order. Because I ended up like buying the Reach console and all of the Halo games at the same time. It was like the only reason I did it. It was the only reason I bought an Xbox One was to play 4, and it was not worth it.
Yeah. Did you see the Infinite trailer that came out this morning?
Yeah. I was gonna ask you about that. I'm not all that sure what I think about it. I'm not super interested, to be honest. I mean, I'll probably end up getting it, especially because someone mentioned that it's on Steam, so
That's
it's less reason to buy an Xbox even. But it was the only reason I was considering it, and now there's no point in that even. But yeah, like I mentioned this to some people earlier. I didn't like 4, and I liked 5 even less. 5 is awful. Like I know you've not played up to that one, but 5 has the same boss fight. Like I think it's 11 times.
wow.
It's really bad. It's just a really bad game. And like I don't think I trust the company who've made 4 and 5, arguably the 2 worst Halo games, to make another one that is not only like the biggest ever, it's apparently there's been a bit of a discussion. I think they mean twice as big, but that comparison actually doesn't make sense. Other people have said they mean twice as long as the other two. It's longer than the other 2 games combined.
I think it's going to be twice as big because they've talked about how they're going to. The reason it's called Halo Infinite is because they're going to keep it and then keep adding to it. So instead of having a new Halo game, you would just buy a DLC campaign for Infinite.
Well, what I don't get, the reason I'm confused by that is because that's what I thought as well. But how do you compare the size of an open world sandbox with 2 linear games? Like, there is not an accurate size comparison there to be made. Like, it's what does twice as big mean in that context? Like, the other games are like, functionally 2 straight lines, whereas this is like 3-dimensional, like shit size. You get what I mean?
In terms of progression and in terms of just structure, yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like they've said that the world is like twice as big, and like I say, I was arguing with people about whether or not that meant twice as long or twice as like actually large, like level wise. And like as a level wise, I don't think that makes sense. As a length thing, I can understand that, but that goes back to the point I was making earlier. Like I don't trust the company who've made 2 games I already don't like to make an even longer version of one of those, and apparently for it to be better. That's what I don't. That's why I'm not all that into it.
But it's got a grapple hook, though.
Yeah, I know that was kind of tempting.
It's got a grapple hook.
Yeah,
it looks like Doom. It really reminds me the gameplay that they showed, and this is great evergreen content that we're talking about a trailer, but
yeah,
it looked a lot like reminded me of Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal.
Yeah. Have you played either of those?
I have. I played both of those.
Okay. What did you think of Eternal?
Eternal was good. There were things I liked about Eternal that it did better, and there were things that I thought that 2016 felt a little better in.
I wasn't big on Eternal, to be honest. I can't say I liked it. Like, it's not bad, but I think I think 2016 is better. I'd much prefer 2016 as a game.
I think 2016 is more focused. It's
Yeah.
more, it's more focused. It knows, it's more compact in a lot of ways, and I think that serves it a little better.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Eternal feels better to me, especially in the movement. I really, really enjoyed the movement in Eternal, and so I wish.
Yeah, like I like the dashes, and I like the meat hook. I especially liked the meat hook.
So I wish 2016 had more of that, or maybe rather, I wish Eternal felt more focused as 2016 was, and still had the movement.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of like presentation stuff mostly in Eternal that bothered me.
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, it's just the way it sort of like throws you into the like. It doesn't pick up where the last one left off, which okay, but it also doesn't give you any context for where you are. And then a lot of it is like context you like end up picking up our stuff through like the lore drops and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they've said that one of the pieces of DLC that they're going to bring out is going to be like a prequel, which will explain what happened in between the two. But I think I would rather. You've finished it, haven't you?
I have, yes.
Right. Okay. So for anyone who's listening who hasn't already finished it, I'm going to spoil the ending for a bit. I think I personally would have included the prequel bit and then ended at the Khan Maker fight and then had the Icon of Sin be the DLC. Because, like, Khan Maker feels like a relatively reasonable place to end. It felt like an ending. And then you go off and do even more. And, like, that felt like a bigger ending. Do you get what I mean? Whereas this is like now, I've gone through this entire story not knowing where I've come from. And then finished it. And now I'm going to learn where I came from in the middle. And in terms of, like, the story, there can't really be anything bigger than where you left off after the Icon of Sin, really, can there? Especially not beforehand.
No.
So it just feels weird to me, like that this is the decision they made about where to place stuff.
I can see that. I felt like Khan Maker was a little underwhelming as a boss battle, but I can definitely see what you're saying. That was just, I felt that Khan Maker was underwhelming as a boss fight just because I didn't feel like it was a very fun boss fight.
Oh yeah, no, that's understandable, but like from less of a like gameplay standpoint and more of a story standpoint, I feel like that would have been a good place to stop. Yeah,
I get that.
Mm-hmm. There was something I was going to go back to, but I've completely forgotten what it was now.
That's podcasting, right?
Yeah, very much.
What have you been up to? What have you been playing? What have you been reading, watching?
Right now, like in the last few days, I've been doing a lot of Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, my dad's actually been playing that.
I won't like spoil any of it for you, but
pretty new.
It's pretty good so far. The only thing that gets me, like maybe it goes places later on. Like I've just finished the first act and there's 3 acts.
Okay.
So one of the things that really gets me is it's very front loaded in terms of like upgrade content, if you get what I mean. Like by the time I finished the first act, almost everything that I'd unlocked, I had fully upgraded already. And to give you some sense of scale, there's like Mongol camps that you can free, and there's some of them in each area, right? I think there's 24 of them in the first area, 17 of them in the second area, and 15 in the third, to give you some idea of like how big each area is. Yeah. So by the time I finished the end of the first area, I had almost all of the like weapon upgrades. I had every technique upgrade, which is like skill trees. I had every technique upgrade that I cared about. I didn't have all of them, but I had all the ones I was actually interested in. I had like all of the like charm slots, and it just feels weird. Like in terms of like an upgrade path, I don't know where I'm going to go anymore. There doesn't feel like there's any more room for me to expand from where I'm already at, and I'm only a third of the way through the game.
Do you think that's because they expected you to maybe do those Mongol camps. Are those side missions? Are they kind of like the camps in Far Cry games?
Yeah, yeah. It's almost it's essentially an Assassin's Creed game.
Right. So
Like it's kind of like a combination in terms of gameplay of the earlier Assassin's Creed games with the open worldness of the later Assassin's Creed games.
okay. But do you think it's because of like how much they weren't expecting you to do all that side content before the first act, but they still let you, you know?
Hmm. I mean, kind of, but there's like, I mean, yeah, like I have been thinking that to some extent, but at the same time, it feels like without completely ignoring a lot of the side stuff, I have become way too powerful way too quickly. And like I feel like I would have to have ignored like half the game to be playing it the way they expect. It
Oh,
just feels really weird to me.
yeah, so it's still, excuse me. It still feels like you would have to actively try to not be over upgraded.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I'm regularly running around with like multiple points for my skill tree just hanging around because I haven't because I don't care about most of the upgrades in the tree, to be honest. Like it's split into three separate trees. There's your there's like a generic sort of combat tree, which is just like new moves. And then there's the samurai skills and there's the ghost skills. And I have finished the ghost tree already. And I've done part of the samurai tree, and I haven't done any of the combat ones because I haven't needed to.
So, I mean, that reminds me of a lot of the modern kind of my issues with the modern AAA open world, whatever. I don't know. I don't want to use the word generic, but um,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
is those kind of skill trees never feel satisfying to progress,
Yeah,
and it's because they don't want to. I don't think they want to go full RPG with it and just have stats and weapons and items that increase, but they still want to have some sort of progression like that. And so it
yeah,
creates a weird middle ground.
yeah. There's like a lot of that in this. Um, like you, it's not a traditional like level up, but it is.
Mhm.
You like level up. It's like a level bar. It's called your legend. You level up all the way, and you get a new. Well, for the first few levels, you get an entire new skill.
Right, you get a skill point.
No, no,
Oh,
that's what I mean. So, like, there is an entire new skill that you unlock at the end of a full level up bar, but there are also like little points in the middle of each bar, which gives you a point which you can spend on upgrading skills you've already got.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was going to last a while, and it just doesn't. Like I say, by the end of the first by the end of the first act, I'd unlocked all of them. There's also like the combat upgrades I was talking about. There's like they're called stances. Like it's like the stances in Neo, if you know
Mhm.
what I mean. Right. So it's like those. It sounds like there's a lot, but you unlock points for stances by killing or observing Mongol leaders. And there are more than enough Mongol leaders in the first area to unlock all of them. So now I'm kind of like, well, killing the Mongol leaders obviously is something I need to do for like freeing the towns and stuff. But in terms of like gameplay, in terms of like mechanical incentive to do that, I don't know what there is anymore. Like, there's just a load of like little weird things where it's like I feel like the game expects you to ignore a lot of it, and it's like if you want me to ignore all this stuff, why is it here? And it's like here for certain people, but for the certain people it's there for, they're going to be like massively overpowered by the time they get to the actual story bits. It's just like it just hits me weird. You know what I mean?
Do you think there's gonna be, like, extra stuff in the second and third act that might give you a incentive to do that, or does it actually seem like you've done everything ahead of
Well,
time?
yeah, there aren't any like there is one space left on my skill tree that is empty. Like not on the skill tree, sorry. There is like one skill I know I haven't got yet, and I will get at the end, some later point. Outside of that, I can see everything else. There's like weapons that you can unlock, but it's kind of like it's like more of an oversight on their part. But you can unlock upgrades for weapons and things you haven't got yet before you get them. So like I know what's coming essentially, and I have like one thing as far as I can tell. Like, granted, you might be right, and I might be like about to run into something that completely upends everything I've seen so far, but it doesn't really seem like it.
Yeah, from what you've described, and I don't know, I haven't picked up the game yet, but from what you described, it does just sound like you did the side content that was available to you, and now you are like massively. And it's not even like the like grinding in an RPG or doing side content and being over leveled. It's a little different because it's a different kind of system than that.
Yeah, it's just it's a good game. I'm enjoying it, but I think one of my main things is like I don't watch reviews or read reviews or watch like any coverage of a game outside of its like I watched like the initial trailer usually, and then maybe one or two bits like a couple of months out from release, and then I like from usually about 6 months before release, I don't watch anything until I've finished the game. Because I like to basically not pay attention to any of it and just try and make whatever opinions I get out of it. So obviously I can't like hide myself from like opinions that people just throw out.
Right.
But I can hide myself from like the main stuff, yeah. What I don't get right now is why everyone likes this game so much. Like, I like it. It's good. But it is literally just an Assassin's Creed game.
Well,
like in terms of like presentation, it looks really good. Like it looks fantastic. But like gameplay wise, it's an Assassin's Creed game. It doesn't do anything new as far as I can tell. Like the combat is a bit better, but like it's got the same sort of issue as the old Assassin's Creed game did. It's like mostly just like wait around for a bit for someone to attack, then parry. Or you can also, using the stance switching, each stance is better for a different type of enemy.
mm-hmm.
So it's literally just switch to the correct stance and hit them, and you win. And that's like it. So like there is nothing like
there's no depth.
Particularly, yeah, exactly. It's not particularly mechanically deep. There is some stuff in the game that like I don't think it was in any trailers or anything, so I won't mention it. I won't mention like what it is, but I will say that the method of using it is to jump in the air and then press R2, and it barely ever works. And by the time it doesn't work, you're already in the air, which means half the time you're about to die. Because it's literally just jump in the air and then die, and that's it. Like you'll fall off a cliff or something. It's infuriating. And there was when I was first thinking all this stuff, I was like, oh well, like it's all like it's sort of like issues I'd expect from someone who's making the like first open world game, stuff like that. And then I remembered who Sucker Punch were.
It's infamous.
And I was like, this isn't the first open world game. This isn't the first open world game they've made, is it? Like, I would expect better from them. And I really think outside of the presentation so far, the presentation and the story, I'll say the story is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of those two, there isn't particularly much special about this. So why it's getting the reception it does when like the Assassin's Creed games get like reviled, I don't really get.
My theory would be one, that it's from a studio we haven't really been hearing a whole lot from, and two, everyone is describing it as Assassin's Creed but with samurai, and that's something that a lot of people have wanted for a very long time.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I've wanted that forever. Like
I have too.
Yeah. Where it's like I'm like maybe I'm ragging on it a bit hard just because I sometimes think Assassin's Creed gets unfairly treated.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because like I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan. Like I've bought the special edition for I bought at least one special edition for every game since 2. Some of them I have multiple special editions for. Like the first tattoo I ever got was the Assassin's Creed logo. Like I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, and if I'm being completely honest, the newer stuff I don't actually like as much. Like Origins and Odyssey, I'm not as big on, and I'm not super interested. Well, I'm going to get it, but I'm not super interested in Valhalla either. Like the last one I really liked was Syndicate. I think Syndicate was really good, and I think it was like massively underappreciated. I think it's the last actually good Assassin's Creed game, and you can see more of my opinions on Assassin's Creed games in the Assassin's Creed tier list that I made.
Nice plug.
Yeah, well, I had to. Oh, yeah, okay. And if you want to hear more about Assassin's Creed, Garry also made an Assassin's Creed retrospective video that you can look at that I'll link in the description.
It's pretty all right.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It's better than my super hot video, which got way more views because of the algorithm. But
yeah, well, timing.
Yeah, I had pretty good coincidental timing with that one.
Yeah.
And I kind of started working on Assassin's Creed 2, but my computer is currently in the process of dying. I had something today with my graphics card that it won't allow me to boot up any games, and I'm trying to figure that out, so that's been fun.
What graphics card is it?
It's NVIDIA GTX G4. I'm honestly like low-key tech illiterate when it comes to certain things. I'm sorry.
Is it in a laptop or is it an actual PC?
It's a laptop, yeah.
Okay, so it's a GTX.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not a recent one, it's at least like what? If it's not either a 16 or a 10 series, then it's like 8 years old at this point.
Probably.
Yeah.
I bought this computer like 5 or 6 years ago anyway, so.
Yeah. Well, if it was like top of the line, then it would have been a 10 series, but if it's relatively cheap, then it would have been a 9 series, which was already old 5 years ago.
I think it is a 9 series looking at the stickers on my laptop.
Well, the other thing is it as well, the NVIDIA did a thing back then where from what I remember, the mobile 9 series processors are actually just rebranded 7 series processors.
Oh, that's
so
gross.
They're actually like a generation behind that as well. Like it's even worse. Yeah, so that was another thing as well. They skipped the 8 series, so it went from 7 to 9. Like graphics kind of weird.
Yeah. It's probably, I don't really know what it is, but it's I was already having trouble with Assassin's Creed 2 recording that, and I think you told me that it might have been the de novo stuff from Uplay, but
yeah,
that on top of OBS, on top of playing the game, just made the recordings a PowerPoint. So
yeah,
my plan was to put this. I was going to do Assassin's Creed 1, or actually I was originally I wanted to replay Assassin's Creed 2 because it was free on Uplay for like 2 days, and I picked it up and I was like, I want to replay this and I want to like make a video about it. And then I felt like, well, I really need to, like, if I'm going to make a video about Assassin's Creed 2, I need to make a video about Assassin's Creed 1 before I do that. So I got Assassin's Creed 2 for free, and then I bought Assassin's Creed 1 on PC and made my video on it. And now I'm having to put that on hold, even though that was kind of the whole impetus for me starting to make these videos.
Mm-hmm. Well, that kind of leads into what we were going to talk about today anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to start with the actual stuff now?
Sure thing.
Okay, right. So that would lead in better to the second question, but let's start with the first one just to make sure.
Okay.
So what is the first thing that you remember making?
Oh, that's
like it could be like a video or something you've written or just anything, but like the first thing you properly remember.
I mean, I think back to like when you asked that question, I thought about like digging through my big tub of Legos that I had as a little kid.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's exactly how you were asking that.
I mean, it kind of works. Like I have to admit, I was thinking more of the sort of like writing a story or like making a video or something like that, but still making stuff, I suppose.
Yeah. It must have been elementary school, probably. I remember having this notebook that I just filled with like what was basically fan fiction of different things. I
Mhm.
was really into Earthbound at the time, and I think that's where a lot of my kind of writing came from. And then for whatever reason, I kind of stopped
Mm.
feeling like I enjoyed writing fiction or enjoyed writing stories. And at a certain point, I decided I really wanted to write analysis and nonfiction-y kind of stuff, like the videos that I make.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and honestly, if I could just write those and put those out and I don't know, feel good about them, I probably would. I don't really, for whatever reason, I feel like I do need to have a video attached to what I
Mhm.
write or some sort of other component besides just the writing at the point I'm at. Maybe that's
Mm.
just to get it out there and for people to see it easier. But
Yeah, this is that's like something we've talked about previously, is that we kind of feel the opposite on that sort of sense. Like you feel like you need a video to go along with your writing, and a lot of times I feel more like I need writing to go along with my video.
yeah.
Like I enjoy that side of it a lot more than I do the writing. Like I really struggle with the writing side, which is a lot of the reason why it takes me so long to do stuff.
Yeah, and I struggle with the video editing and the voice recording. All of that is stuff that I which I'm still you're a lot more experienced in a lot of that stuff than I am when it comes to that.
um,
And I appreciate your your help in a lot of things
oh
too
yeah.
with video editing and audio stuff.
Mhm. I've always liked doing it anyway. Like the when I was younger, like I used to have some friends and we'd like one of the things we do is like we'd sit around a table and like try and write stories. But
hmm
I liked planning the story, but not really much of the writing.
Yeah, that's that's kind of how I was with fiction, and that's why
Mhm,
when I was younger, I wrote a lot of fan fiction
mhm.
because I never felt like I enjoyed coming up with ideas, but I always enjoyed the like act of writing something out.
Yeah. But when I was with those people, we entered a short film contest. I'm talking like I was like 13
Mm,
maybe.
you good?
We entered a short film contest, and we I think my friend wrote the entire story himself, and then all of us as like all of the people who were like in the group, we all acted in it, and it was like a short murder mystery. Um, and then afterwards we recorded it, and then I edited the entire thing. So like it was only like 15 minutes long,
hmm
but that was like my first time really getting into editing stuff, and I've just always kind of liked it since then. So like I've always like dipped in and out of it like every now and again.
Yeah, I I dabbled in it a little bit when I was younger. I was really for a while when I was a kid, I was really into as if I'm not young now, but I was really into Lego stop motion. Yeah, and we actually did one through school. I think there was one where there was like I remember we had a project or maybe I was just doing it at school, but I had all these little projects and I never was a good enough builder to feel accomplished enough in it. But that was kind of my first little dabble in it and doing stuff with Windows Movie Maker
Yeah,
and putting things together like that. Um,
yeah.
I always liked making stories, and I always liked that process of. I liked the process when of doing those videos, those stop motion videos as a kid of making them, and then when I had to take all the images to the computer to put them together, I was like, oh well, this isn't what I enjoy. So that
Yeah,
I'm still kind of have that mindset now.
yeah, yeah. So what you were saying reminded me that so I have like loads of like cuddly toy like plush stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to make stop motion videos with them when I was like probably 9 or 10. I got given like a really old video camera, like old enough that it still used like videotapes.
Oh
It was
yeah.
like massive. And I used to record them doing like adventures and stuff. I just like completely forgot about it until you mentioned doing the stop motion with Lego. So I suppose I started even earlier.
Yeah, that's a very kind of niche thing that certain kids get into, I think.
Yeah.
Because I know I had other friends who were around the time, and we were all building Lego stuff. I even went to like a Lego convention in my state,
Mhm.
and I mean that was cool. I was subscribed to a magazine for a while. I was like a Lego freak, and now I build Gunpla now.
Oh. I think most people go through a Lego time. I once accidentally told someone I liked Lego. And I say accidentally because it meant that for the next like 6 years, every birthday and Christmas, the only thing they got me was Lego. And I was like, yeah, like Lego's kind of cool, but like not, no, please just stop. I have nowhere to store all this Lego. Um, I did when I was like a lot younger, probably like 6 or 7. We went to the Lego park that they had.
Mm-hmm.
It was, well, it still is in Windsor. I think this was while Lego still owned it, because I don't know if you're aware, but Lego don't actually own Legoland.
Oh, do they not anymore?
No, they had to sell it off
That's
because they apparently like almost went bankrupt a few years ago, and they had to sell it off. And since then, they've been doing really well. But yeah, so I think this was like back when they still owned it, and it was pretty good. I remember it being pretty good. I remember there being a race, like one of the Lego races things.
mm-hmm.
And like I think I went on that once, and it was okay.
I've been to the one in Florida before when I was younger, and yeah, it was for a kid who was really into Legos. There was some really cool stuff there, and I think there's one in California too, and that's where they have like this big. It's almost like a sculpture park of these big creations and things. And I mean, they had that at Florida too, but
Why this is a bigger version.
mm-hmm.
I was going to say something about Lego, but I've forgotten what it was. um, so we'll move on to another question then, seeing as I've forgotten everything else.
Sure thing.
Why do you feel like you make things?
That's a good question. That's
If you want a bit more,
mm-hmm.
it kind of combines with the question I've got after that as well.
Okay.
Which is like, it's okay. So do you make things just because you feel like making things, or do you make things because you feel like a drive to create? Or do you make things because you just want to get stuff out there? Like, is it like an internal thing, or do you want like the external validation from your stuff? I suppose.
I mean, it feels selfish to say, but it is the latter. It is.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the most interesting, like video creation or content creation is the most interesting way for me to put my thoughts out there, and my and that statement kind of comes with a little bit of some self-importance, I think, but
yeah. Well, like if you're gonna put stuff out at all, you've got to be somewhat narcissistic.
A little bit, yeah. But I think it kind of ties into what I was saying before, is that like if I could put my writing out there and just have that be seen, then that would probably suffice for having the feeling. I don't know. So much of why I want to make these videos and why I want and other things that I want to make is I feel like it's imitative. It's like I see people who make things that I like, and I'm like, I kind of want to do that, or I could do that, more than like just this internal drive to make things. It's almost reactionary, I think, in a lot of ways, and that makes me feel sometimes that I'm this kind of imposter syndrome of that I'm ripping these people off, or that I'm not, I'm just doing the same thing as my influences. But I'm sure every artist or every person who makes things that has influences feel that way.
Yeah, like watching your stuff at times, but although I'm gonna say this, but some of it might just be because of your voice.
Uh-huh.
Like there is always like occasionally I'll think of like Noah Caldwell Gervais.
Who?
Noah Caldwell Gervais.
I'm not familiar.
Do you? Oh, really?
Oh no.
That's
I
surprising.
might
He's
be.
I assume you would be. Give me a second. I'll just pull up a link because it might just be that you're not recognizing him because like I pronounce his name weird.
No, I'm not familiar with this person at all.
Oh, you looked him up.
Oh, I have seen some of these in my feed, like his Mad
Yeah.
Max one, but they've all been too long.
Yeah, no, they're very long. Like some of them are a good few hours long. No, okay, right. So, yeah, like I've always got like kind of like his sort of vibes off you. I think it's a
Mhm.
lot in your cadence and the sort of voice more than anything. Like you have, there are some aspects of it that, like when you make things,
Mhm.
like when other people make things, but we're talking about you right now, so I'll frame it as you. When you make things, you make references to things, and I don't get that. Like I don't understand how other people make references to stuff. Because I always end up framing everything just in terms of what I already know. And there are like specific references people will pick up from all over the place,
Mhm.
and like you,
I've thought about that. I've thought about when I've been writing things and I've included references. I'm like, should I include this reference to this weird, maybe not niche, but yeah, niche YouTube channel or something? I think there was
yeah,
something in the Super Hot video where I referenced like one of those ARG kind of rabbit holey YouTube channels.
yeah, like no, but like that's what I'm saying. Like that, like it's one of those things where like as a viewer, I can watch it and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like I can see why they would talk about that, and I can see where they draw the comparisons from. But as someone who makes stuff myself, maybe it's just that like I'm blind to when I do it myself, but I don't tend to draw comparisons between things, which I think is like a failing of me as a writer. I don't tend to like draw the comparisons between stuff, and I don't tend to reference the stuff. I tend to like revolve the entire things I create around my own opinions and how I feel about things. Whereas like the people who like the sort of content that I actually enjoy watching more,
Mm-hmm.
like they tend to write the sort of more like analytical comparisons, and then like the sort of like sometimes it'll be like the philosophical ramifications of like aspects within games, and like
Yeah.
there's a guy who does an entire series about the environmental impact of video game creation.
Yeah.
Um,
Who is that? Is it Lamhoot?
it's not. No, it's not Lamhoot. It's one of those
It's
people
one of,
that
yeah.
like I got to this guy through Lamhoot.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, it was either through Lamhoot or through writing on games.
Writing on games, yeah, is another favorite of mine.
Well, I got to Lamhoot through writing on games, so it kind of all ends up. I don't think it's Neril because Neril does the Majora's Mask stuff and some other comparison videos.
Are you familiar with King K?
Yeah, yeah.
He's a huge influence
Mhm.
on me. Um, that's why I just threw up a logo and titled it Assassin's Creed Retrospective on my video
Yeah,
because I was a huge fan of how he, like, the simple way he just titled his videos and it made it really easy. I enjoyed that as a viewer,
yeah,
that he didn't have like some it was just it's like Mario 64 retrospective or whatever, and then it had the logo, right? And
yeah,
I like that kind of simplicity.
yeah. I think the issues we get with those is that it doesn't tend to draw a lot of attention from like the. It doesn't tend to draw a lot of attention from like the wider audience,
Mm-hmm.
whereas it does get a lot of attention from like people like us.
Yeah.
Like it is kind of like it's one of the reasons why like I title my stuff the way I do is because it is literally everything is just the series name and then the specific item,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Makes
like it.
sense.
Because like I think the only time I've like actively done something which I knew would do well, no, I followed the sort of guidelines, which was with my Terraria video where I just titled it do I like Terraria? But it's because like
Prairie is good, and here's why. Or
well, actually, that was the opposite. Like I didn't like it.
oh yeah,
Um,
that's right.
mhm. But
Prairie is bad, and here's why.
yeah. Well, that's the thing though, is that like I know that putting questions in YouTube video titles it like engenders more audience engagement. It just makes people more likely to click it because it's like, well, what is the answer to this question? And they just tend to follow it more than if you just say, I don't like Terraria. They're like, that's a statement. They get all the information from that and then they never think about it again. It still didn't do that well, but I think that speaks to larger issues with the algorithm and my channel. I think I'm trying not to talk about myself too much in this because I've
No,
got
it's
you on here
fine.
for a reason so we can talk about you.
I mean,
But
it's a conversation.
yeah, I've been thinking recently about splitting my channel
Mm-hmm.
into two separate channels because I'm aware that my half-hour videos and my
The
stream
streams.
videos, yeah, they don't do anything for me really, but they're also the thing I like making.
Yeah.
I like making the other videos as well, but like they take me a lot longer. But the point is that the half hours and the streams, while I like making them, and when they get watched, they're like massively helpful. The fact that they don't get watched anywhere near as much as anything else I make is actually dragging everything down.
Yeah, that makes
Uh,
sense.
because it makes YouTube recommend your videos less. And it's like part of it for me, and that, like I said, one of the reasons I got you on is because I'm interested in why other people make things. And the reason I'm interested in that is because I feel like I sort of hinder myself with this because I don't particularly care. Like, I don't particularly care that like wide audiences don't watch my stuff. I don't particularly care that like wide audiences don't play the games I make and stuff like that. Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I have this urge to make things. I have this like internal drive to make stuff. So I make stuff, and that is it. Like, once I've made it, I tend to look at it and be like, oh, this did well. Oh, this didn't. And that is like it. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, I know other people, and like you've said, like, it's not that you make it for the external validation, but the external validation helps.
Well, it's more. I guess for me, it's more instead of having like a need to make things, it's having a need to put it out there. And
Mhm.
even if it got like 2 views and that was my dad twice, right? It's still
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. I suppose then, like, we're quite similar in that respect, in that, like, you've got to make something, but, like, the releasing it kind of makes it. It's weird because, like, releasing it makes it real.
It finalizes it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. But, like, what I mean is it makes it real. Because it's like, if I make something but never release it, it just kind of sits in this limbo forever.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And then once you actually release it, it, like, it actually exists now.
Yeah, there's a even more of a tangibility to it
Yeah.
when you have and that's why I feel like I kind of have to attach it to a video
Mhm.
because it makes it feel more tangible to me.
Mhm.
Like I did this a couple years ago. I wrote up this big analysis of this Beach Boys album and talked
Mhm.
about like, you know, the instrumentation and the history behind it. And it's this huge thing. And like I showed it to my English teacher,
Yeah.
you know, and she said it was really cool. And that was about it. And now it's just kind of sat in my Google Docs for 2 years now. And
Yeah.
so I've been wanting to make something out of that since I mean, I've already written it,
Yeah.
but that's been kind of a struggle for me is like trying to figure out how to make something out of that and how to make it a video or how to
Yeah.
make it something that feels more tangible than just an essay I wrote on pet sounds.
Yeah. Well, to some extent, that's kind of like easier with a video game, isn't it? Because it's got the like purely visual aspect of it. So you could just drag footage of it in and you're done.
Yeah,
Whereas
it's so
with
much
the
B-roll.
Mhm.
I mean, if
whereas
you
with
just record yourself playing through the game, you'll have plenty
oh yeah.
of
Well, I don't like talking about projects that I've started and never finished. But I actually started and got about halfway through a review of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And the reason I didn't finish the review of Assassin's Creed Odyssey was because I didn't like the game enough to care, which I think it says a lot about the game. Cassandra's amazing and arguably the best thing about that game. But outside of that, I was just like, it's fine. I ended up finishing it.
I almost was that way about Assassin's Creed 1.
Yeah.
I almost was. It was Assassin's Creed 2 that drove me to finish
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed 1, and now I can't finish my Assassin's Creed 2 video.
Yeah. Well, I think the closest you could probably get to doing that is like if you got a copy of it on the Xbox and a capture card.
Yeah.
But it's like an awful lot of work. Like, I wouldn't make half the videos if I did, if when I started this, I hadn't decided to buy a load of stuff at the start. Like, if I got to the point where I was like, I want to make a video on this thing, but I don't already own all the stuff to make it, I will never make it. I'm not going to like go out there and buy extra stuff. But when I first started making videos, I was just like, oh, I'm going to make videos. I'm going to buy all the stuff I need to make videos and use it. So I already own a capture card and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
you put a investment into it at the start.
Yeah. It still hasn't paid off.
I just decided, I was like, I can use OBS and play the PC version, and so that kind of limits what I can do, especially since I have an older PC that doesn't all, and is all of that. I've been frustrated about that all day today, but it's just been interesting to me what games I decided to write about and start making videos about once I had made that first one. Because I planned to just go straight from Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2. And then I was playing a lot of Super Hot.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should be recording this. If I'm playing this much of this game, I should be recording this and I can write something about it. Yeah. So
I was going to say that leads into my next question, but it doesn't, to be honest. But so I had another question.
Segue anyway. Just
give me a yes or no answer. Do you like games with cars?
With cars? Or cards?
Cars.
Yes.
Speaking of driving, what does the drive to create feel like for you? It was the quickest thing I could think of to segue.
Yeah, okay. So that's something I've been thinking about lately, and that's a question I've been asking myself in a very kind of self-reflective way that I maybe don't want to get into too much in this podcast, but motivation to create these things is something I struggle with. I struggle with the motivation to even, like, sometimes I'll just stare at my screen, like my wallpaper, and like I did a couple days ago, I just kind of stared at the Dead Space icon, or I would just, and I'm like, at any time I could start playing this game and record more footage for it, and at any time I could do any of this, and it just getting that kind of motivation to do it is something that, like, making myself do something, making myself do it is pretty much what my drive is. It almost feels like it's not a natural drive. It's something I want to do, but having to make myself do it is part of the process, I think.
Yeah. I think I've been like that a lot with a video that I'm trying to make at the moment. Like, I've been trying to make a video about title screens. About like their usage, and about games which have really good title screens, which like help you understand the game, and games which have really bad title screens, which like actively detract from the game. But I wrote like 500 words, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then that was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like I'm gonna finish that video sometime. And like again with that Assassin's Creed Odyssey review that I was talking about, I like recorded all of the footage for it. I've got like 16 hours of footage of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I got like a couple of thousand, I don't even remember because it was a couple of years ago at this point. I've got like half of the review written, and I just never bothered to go back to it. There's so many like projects like that where I've been like, oh yeah, I want to do this thing, and then within like an hour or two of actually starting to write it, I've just been like, I have like no drive to do it.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to say is, are there or have there been like stuff where you've not had that issue, where it's been like this sort of like, not like a focused drive, but
Or I just felt like I had a muse and it just like the creativity flowed.
yeah. Well, for an example, I made a horror game last October, right? So it was based on a nightmare I had, and I had this nightmare in like August,
Mm-hmm.
and for about 3 weeks, the only thing I could think of was I should make that into a game. And then basically until it was done, the only thing I could think about was doing that thing. And I did it. And that was it. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I still did everything else I needed to do. Like, I still got all my videos done at the same time. And like, I don't think it's like, I don't think that if you only saw one aspect of things that I do, you would have understood that I was doing something else at the same time, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But I had this like consistent drive. It was the only thing I could think about, and it was the only thing I cared about was doing this one thing and getting it done. And I managed to do it. And what I'm trying to get at is, have you had things like that as well? Like, have you had like projects like that you've worked on where it was like the only thing that mattered to you at that time?
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish, and I'm sure you do too. I wish all my projects felt like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like I kind of, for lack of a better term, with that Assassin's Creed video, captured fire in a bottle.
Yeah.
For my own personal fire, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And there was maybe not, I don't think it was to the extent of your game, but there was a drive of like, okay, you're smart enough now that you can, and you have enough time since you're stuck at home that you can get this done. You know, and it was more just my drive to get it done was just to see if I could, because to be honest, before that video, all of my projects were projects that just got written and then got sidelined by school or work, you know?
Yeah.
What came to mind when you asked that question, though, was actually a D&D campaign that I wrote up, and I wrote this big, huge world for and designed all these characters and things, and then we had like 2 sessions of it and then never came back to it because that friend group kind of disbanded.
Yeah.
And things happened, and so I still have all of this kind of world building that I did, and it was the first time I ever really felt into world building for this D&D campaign. And I remember being like at work at Walmart scanning groceries and thinking about how the Goblin Society worked, and
Yeah.
for whatever reason that just took over my mind for that little bit. And I'm doing GM stuff with other campaigns, and it just doesn't, for whatever reason, it doesn't feel the same because I don't have like a core idea to be around, I guess. Yeah. So I'm trying to push myself towards feeling that way, trying to push myself towards feeling like I have that passion to make things. It's hard right now.
Yeah. I think when you have that sort of like drive for an individual project, it makes it, I don't want to say easier because the work is still hard, but it makes actually doing the work easier, if you get what I mean.
Well, you have motivation.
But
and
it's also like not realistic to have that feeling for everything.
That's true, yeah.
So it's like to some extent I like respect more the work that comes from like actually just getting stuff done. Yeah, I mean, like the sort of like, I want to make this thing, it's going to be hard, and making it anyway, rather than it is the only thing I can think about is making this thing.
Yeah.
Because like,
I mean, it's a passion project, right? And passion projects,
yeah,
you have a very certain specific view for what your passion project is, and you're doing it in this very specific way a lot of times, you know, and this is the thing that I want to do, and and you're kind of right that when you maybe not when you don't want to do it, but when it's something that is more of a challenge, it can be seen as a little more valuable.
Although at the same time, you could say that the sort of passion for the work can come through in the work in itself. Like, where is the value then in creating work without the passion and only the sort of like, I don't know how to phrase it. No, I have like no idea how to phrase what I'm trying to say. Like, if you can't feel the passion in the work that you're making, if you don't have the sort of intense passion for the work that you're making, is that then of value? Or will it come across in the work that you aren't as passionate about it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and it's different for everybody, I think. My problem is kind of where like I get really passionate about making something. Like I was really kind of excited about making this Dead Space video, and then I
Right.
stopped playing Dead Space for a while, and then going back to it felt like an obligation or felt like kind
Yeah.
of a it felt like work, you know, and that's something that I worry about is that I'm going to turn video games into work.
Yeah, I kind of have that issue. Is that like,
Yeah, you were telling me that you only really play games to make videos.
yeah, like to some extent, like I mean, I suppose to some extent it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is that like the reason I started making these videos in the first place was so that I could play more things. Because a lot of the times I was either just playing the same thing all the time, or I was just buying games and not playing them at all, and just not doing anything. So the reason I started making stuff in the end was just to make sure that I at least played it a bit. So I've now gotten to the point where I play so many games, it's kind of hard to actually give them all a lot of time, which was actually the reason I started streaming, was to give the ones I played even longer.
Mm-hmm.
So I now play at least an hour and a half, 2 hours of a game. Every game that I buy, I play at least an hour and a half to 2 hours of it.
I'm I'm looking at my shelf right now and looking at games that I have not played that much in.
Yeah. Well, to some extent, it's good because it means that I'm playing a lot more. I've got like a way bigger variety of stuff. But to some extent, it's bad because there are a lot of games where I'm like, I like this game. I would like to go back to it. I probably never will. Like I actually really liked Mafia 3 when I played it. It was kind of broken, but I kind of liked it, and I would like to go back to it. Probably never going to touch it again. Crosscode. Crosscode was pretty good. I know other people really like it. Sorry, Justin. I know I liked it. Probably not going to touch it again.
Yeah, we were talking about that with Read Only Memories because I think we both played it around the same time.
Yeah, that one, I know for a fact, if I hadn't just done a full LP of it on stream, I would never have touched again.
Yeah.
Arguably the same with Valhalla, and that's one of those times when I actually think it was well worth doing the LP, because like I wouldn't have finished Valhalla if I hadn't streamed it, but it was well worth finishing. Guacamelee 2, I feel the exact opposite about. I don't think that was worth finishing. I did not enjoy that anywhere near enough. Like, I just didn't like it at all, which is a shame because I actually really liked the first one.
Yeah, that game is good. Guacamelee, really good.
Yeah, the first Guacamelee was great. Yeah, and then I got the second one, and I was expecting it to be just as good, and I can't explain how much I hated playing it. It's weird because I've spoken to other people about it, and they don't understand why I don't like it as much as I do. And to be honest, I don't understand why I don't like it as much. But I just really did not enjoy playing it at all. Maybe the expectations I had from a game when I played the first Guacamelee are so different from the expectations I have from a game now that if I went back to the first Guacamelee now, I wouldn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it is just that Guacamelee 2 is bad. I don't know. Just going back to what I said, was trying to get at earlier, is like, one thing that making all these videos has done is that it has also made me a lot better at finding games I actually care about.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
It's a lot easier to make time for games I actually care about now. Like, it's become progressively harder to actually play games I'm not all that interested in, which is kind of a shame in some ways, because there are like games that are good that I'm not giving the time they deserve just because I'm not big on them. But at the same time, I'm not going to like waste like 30 hours of my time on a game that I'm like, this is pretty good, when I could be spending 30 hours of my time in a game where I'm like, yeah, this is amazing.
Definitely. So I got a question for you, and let me think of the best way to frame it.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
play a lot of like I think about your Holden's sentence thing where you just do a sentence, right? And a lot of the games you play, while I'm not saying they're all AAA, they're all still pretty. Even if they're indie, they're still like
Yeah, pretty well known in that. Mhm.
bigger name. Do you play like smaller, weirder games in your free time that you just don't feel like have enough meat to talk about?
No, not really. Like we were talking about like only really playing stuff for videos.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I only play stuff for videos, but it's that I make videos on the only things I play.
Yeah.
So there is like uh I think there is like 6 games I've played in the last like year that I haven't made a video on. And that's either because it's games that I've already started. So the point for if it's not already clear, the point of Holden's half hour is that it is literally the first time I've touched a game.
Mm-hmm.
It is the first half hour of a game, and it is just what that first half hour is like. Um, so if I've already played some of a game and I'm going back to it to just finishing it, then I won't make a video on it. And then there's other stuff like I played Monument Valley 2 this year.
Yeah, that was kind of the kind of game I was asking about. It's a very good example.
All right, well, yeah. So I did play Monument Valley 2 this year, and that was really good. I got that because I like the first one. There will be a sentence for that coming out. I can check when. It's probably a long time away.
Yeah, you got this planned out ahead of time.
2021 so far. Sorry, 2022 so far. Monument Valley 2. Currently, at the current rate, it'll be the 12th of June next year. Will be when the review for that comes out. So it's quite far away, but I did finish it. I actually played that all in one sitting.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I can actually just I'm already on it now, so I might as well just tell you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 games I've played this year that I didn't make a Holden's half hour for. And outside of those 7 games, I have made a video for every other game that I've played. So I actually don't play a whole lot besides what you see. So in terms of like smaller indie stuff, one of the things is that like it's not that I have any reason to not play them. One of my issues is that I don't have like tons of money,
Mm-hmm.
so I only buy the things that I already know I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So I find it harder to justify just like dropping money on something that might be cool that I don't already know I care about.
It's a risk.
Yeah. There's that, and there's the there's games that I have since heard about that I think are interesting, but that I had no idea existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the main issues I've got is that I'm like this with like most things, like with movies and film and movies and film. I meant to say music and film. With like music and film and like TV shows to a lesser extent because they're like obviously more widely marketed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been someone who's been good at finding new stuff. Like I know people who like at school I used to be friends with a guy and he'd like put me onto music that he found, but I never found music on my own. I never really found like films on my own. I just sort of like stumbled across the stuff that was either like already popular or just that people I already knew were talking about.
I mean, isn't that how everyone discovers everything though, through other people or other recommendations?
Yeah, to some extent as well. But it's like Jesse in Discord,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, like Jesse knows like so much about like random obscure games that I have never heard of.
Yeah.
And like there are times when like I will find like random games and I'll be like, Jesse probably already knows about this.
Yeah.
And like 90% of the time, I'll be right. Like Jesse does know about it. I'll just be like, this sounds like something Jesse would know about. But I don't think anyone else would say that about me.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I don't think I would, which is kind of why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
what made me think about it was I was considering doing a video where I bought that big itch.io bundle.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I got that as well.
and there's a bunch of just weird, tiny games in there. And I was considering doing like a video series where I would release a short video every now and then, and I would like talk about 3 or 4 of them.
I mean, like, it's a good idea.
Yeah. But I was just wondering like what you thought about those kind of games, because I know what kind of games you play, especially because you play them all on your channel.
Yeah. So that's, you talk about the games I play. Yeah, I don't tend to play anything like that. If you're talking about the games I make things like that.
Yeah.
Like, I make things that I don't expect anyone to ever hear of, because this kind of goes back to the point I was making earlier, is that I don't particularly care about the external validation. So I make things because I have this I'm trying to think of an allegory that doesn't make me sound like a dick. I have like this I'm gonna have to just go with the dick, but I have this it's like think of like a monster, right? So there's like a monster inside, and it's fed. It's fed by creation.
You got to feed the beast, right?
Yeah, but making the videos and stuff like feeds it a little bit. But every now and again it'll get like really hungry, and the only thing that will satiate its hunger is to make a game, or at least work on a game. So there are a lot of games that I have started work on and never finished. And then there is the certain stuff like the game I released last year that I made completely and then released. And I don't particularly care about the external validation. The only thing I care about is that that thing exists. So I would class my games as stuff like that. Stuff that like no one else will ever hear of. And I'm glad those things exist. And I think I wish it was a lot easier to make people hear about things. And I wish it was a lot easier to make people care about things in that sort of vein.
Yeah, I feel that.
That game that I made, I keep calling it that game that I made because I've never actually said its name out loud and no one knows how to say it. So I'm just kind of leaving it at that. I've had questions about how you talk about it. And I'm just like, yeah. Like, they were like, what does the name mean? And I was like, oh, it has a hidden meaning, but I'm not telling you what it is. That game, it got written about. I was like very proud of this when it happened. It got written about in a article on Rock Paper Shotgun about it was one of the 5 best free games that got released that week. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, it is. It got in total 350 downloads, which it depends how you think about it. Like, in terms of a game that I've made, that is the biggest thing I've ever made.
Yeah.
Like, to give you some idea, that is 7 times larger than the second biggest thing I've ever made. And also, it was the first completely solo project, so I was actually like even happier with it, because the game I'd made before that with other people, was with other people, and that one came out and it did pretty well for what it was. Like, we were all really happy with how it did, and it got like 50 downloads.
Yeah.
And then I made a game on my own, and it got 350 downloads, and I was like very happy with it. But when you think about it in terms of like actual like broad appeal, it's like nothing. Like, the person who wrote that article and Rock Paper Shotgun themselves will have gotten so much more traffic on that article than I will ever have seen on my game.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's weird because it's like the person who wrote it seemed to like, I do have some issues with what they wrote, because either they were playing up, like, you're familiar with kayfabe.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So either they were keeping kayfabe, or they were like completely misunderstanding my game. I hope it's kayfabe.
Kayfabe is what, like game journos?
Oh no, sorry, no. Kayfabe is like the internal logic of my game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's an atmospheric horror game for the first half of the game, and then becomes a more sort of explicit, sort of like there are things following you horror game in the second half. But the game is also literally 5 minutes long. So either they completely misunderstood the game and like, or didn't finish it, or they were playing up the first half of the game and downplaying the second half of the game. And I can appreciate that. Like, if that's what they were going for, like, I appreciate that because that's how I want people to think about it. I don't want people.
Right, because it's a twist. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the point I'm getting at is just that, like, I wish it was a lot easier for people like me who don't pay attention to a lot of stuff to find out about the stuff that's smaller. And I got, like, granted, some of that's like, sorry, not some of that, a lot of that is on me. Like, I should do a better job going out and just finding random shit. But at the same time,
I mean, most of the stuff that I find is from like streamers, like from Vine Sauce is probably where I get most of those. I'll see something that he plays on a one of his weirder streams, and then I'll like, oh, I'll go check that out myself, you know. And so it's not that I'm actively looking at it; it's just that there's someone that a content creator that I like that plays a lot of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it though, because like, where did they find out about it? Because that's where we should find out about it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, they have a whole audience of people that send in weird ROM hacks and
yeah,
or make them for them.
Yeah.
Vinny's had like so many fan games made that are like oddly high quality.
I suppose that's what speaks to my stuff again, in that I actually like don't watch many streamers.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it seems weird, especially considering where we met. For like, on the off chance that anybody who ever listens to this doesn't already know who we are and where we met.
I mean, who knows?
We met in what was a Super Best Friends Play, now Castle Super Beast Discord. Outside of them, I suppose, and Vinesauce, but I got into them afterwards.
Yeah.
Outside of them, I don't really watch people who play games. The vast majority of content I watch was about making stuff.
Yeah.
And it was all like random science shit, or like just random shit that I care about. Like, I've got a lot of like I'm looking at my subscriptions right now. I've got some stuff that's analysis of games. I've got some stuff I've got one thing about the definition of art, which literally came out 15 minutes ago to date the video even more. Video. Well, yeah, I suppose this will be a video, won't it? I've got a video about prison. I've got a video about wrestling. I've got like random news videos. Like, the vast majority of stuff that I watched was actually like either analysis or completely not games.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'm doing the same thing right now, looking through my subscriptions. I used to watch a lot more of people playing games, but I don't really anymore.
Oh, actually, I there's one other channel that I watch that plays games now, really, and it's Playframe, if you're familiar. Do you remember Extra Credits?
Yes.
Right. So the original person who started Extra Credits, they left a few years ago.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they left, they started a new channel. Well, actually, no, they didn't start a new channel. They already had the new channel, and then they just claimed ownership of it when they left Extra Credits.
Right.
And it's it's a series of him playing through games.
Yeah, he does that New Frame Plus. That
yeah, he does that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting that we use that as reference while we were making some of the animations for one of our games.
But yeah, my subscription is a lot of. I used to watch a lot more, like, people playing games, and really all I have now is, Wooly and Vinesauce. Yeah, I don't even really watch Pat streams all that much, but
like so talking about Pat streams, I add them all to my watch later playlist and get to them when I get a chance. If you include Paige's streams in that as well, because that makes it a little bit easier. Just give me 19. I'm just doing maths in my head. 245 of his streams. I am 245 of his streams behind right now. I'm probably never going to catch up. I'm just going to watch a load of other shit instead and never catch up with them. But they're there in case I ever feel like it.
Yeah, I have tons of those. Like, I even have trouble. Yeah. I had trouble keeping up with Dokapon with Wooly. I just couldn't. It was really hard for me to keep up with that. And so there's a lot of, I don't know. It's watching those long series like that just kind of became less entertaining to me. Like I used to be really into Game Grumps back when they were a little more popular and a little better. And Beard Bros, the completionists playthrough channel. And I'm still subscribed to them. I still watch their stuff sometimes, but it's just, for whatever reason, I fell off watching really long series.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic, how many subscriptions do you have?
In how many channels?
Yeah, like how many channels are you subscribed to?
Is there a place where I can easily see that number?
If you're on your subscriptions page, if you click the...
Oh, I should probably go on. I was looking on my phone.
All right, okay. You might be able to check.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah, I'll pull it up on my computer.
The only way I know vaguely is on the little, like, I can't remember what it's called, the like burger button top menu thing at the bottom top left hand corner. Right? If you click that, under you, there's like a subscriptions bit in the middle, and it says show number more, because it shows you like 10 and then says show however many more.
Yeah. So I have 216.
Okay, yeah. No, sorry. So I think that's one of the things, is that like a lot of the people who make videos end up subscribing to like a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
Because I've got 365.
And I'm still adding to that. There's
Yeah, I've been like trying to cut back because it's like actually quite hard to keep up with everyone. But
it is, yeah.
like,
well, I just end up ignoring so many videos.
Oh yeah. Like I actually keep a spreadsheet.
Oh really? You would?
Yeah, I know. I have a spreadsheet of everything that is in my Watch Later playlist right now. There is 1,000 hours of stuff in my Watch Later playlist right now.
Yeah, I just recently started using Watch Later. I have 12.
Yeah. I have 264 in my Watch Later playlist. And as I went over a second ago, 245 of those are Pat's streams.
Which I have to take some of these off because I've watched them later.
Well, that's just my Watch Later. I have a Watch Even Later playlist that I made myself. Yeah, it's for the videos of like games and stuff that, like I was explaining earlier, like I don't watch stuff about games until I finish the game. So I keep a playlist of all of those. There's 2,127 videos in there. I know I will never finish it, but just in case, it's there.
Yeah. Whenever you want to dip in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some channels that I don't want to subscribe to Polygon just for Brian David Gilbert. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like there is exactly one good series that, well, I don't know if it's a good series. There is exactly one series that I like that BuzzFeed make. And it's the one where they just compare different prices of food.
Yeah, and you like,
I'm not going to subscribe to BuzzFeed for that.
I wish I could subscribe to a series in.
So for one thing, you used to be able to, and then YouTube took that system away.
Okay, yeah, of course.
For another, the way I do it is I find whatever playlist it is that they update when they do it. So like when they put a new episode out, they usually put that episode in a playlist of the other episodes. If you go on that playlist and click the plus button, it saves that to your library.
Saves that play. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the library rearranges itself when that playlist gets updated. So it means that like if you just keep an eye on that every now and again, it'll like bump up to the top when a new one comes out. And that is the only way I know of doing it.
See, I usually just trust my homepage, because my homepage will usually just show it to me if I watch enough.
Yeah, my homepage is just Linus Tech Tips videos, pretty much. I watch them when I go, like, not when I go to sleep, but like when I'm going to bed.
Yeah,
because it just like relaxes me before I go to sleep.
That's what I do for Vine Sauce. I put them on, but like I subscribe to. I don't watch a good portion of the videos in my subscription feed.
So I found out recently that apparently that hurts the channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because YouTube takes that to mean if you subscribe to something but then don't watch the content, it's because you subscribe because the content you watched was good, and then whatever you have not clicked on since isn't as good as the thing you wanted in the first place. So it like stops recommending it to people. It's utter bullshit. But
Yeah, that there's a lot of that in YouTube's whole thing. But like, especially, and this is kind of going back to what you were talking about, how like some channels will just be like videos and streams, and you know, like I don't watch watch Matt's videos except what happened.
really,
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his other content.
he started doing this thing recently where he says, recommend things for me to play, but make sure you check my channel first to see if I've already played it, because it's really annoying when people do that. And I'm just like, all right, just stop asking people to recommend stuff to you then.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I get that that'd be annoying. But at the same time, like, it just shows people care. Like, I guess as well as, like, I have to be clear that this is clearly a problem more for people who get lots more attention.
Yeah, definitely.
But to some extent, like, when you're at that stage, you have to be able to, like, disengage from the content at some point. Not from, like, what you're making, but from, like, all of the people screaming at you at once. Like, if you can't do that, it is not a healthy place for you to be in. Like, it is not healthy for you to be, like, constantly putting yourself out there if you can't deal with being out there.
I'm just scrolling through my like I'm subscribed to Anthony Fantano.
Yeah.
And both channels.
Oh, yeah.
I watch almost none of his reviews.
Oh, really?
I watch almost exclusively the Fantano, the second channel videos where he discusses like some things that happen news or the Let's Argue. That's like that's, and so because I don't know a lot of these albums.
No.
It's embarrassing to say, but a lot of the album, like I don't really like listening to him talk about an album unless I know the album.
Yeah.
You know, so
see, I'm the opposite. With like all reviews, I watch reviews for things I don't care about, and don't watch reviews for things I do care about until after I've made my decisions on it.
I'm that way for video games.
Yeah.
I am totally that way for video games. I don't know why music is different.
Well, it's like I didn't watch the reviews for like RTJ4 until after I'd finished it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I'm really annoyed by this. I was talking to my wife about this earlier. I don't like that RTJ4 is called RTJ4.
It's called RTJ4 and not Run the Jewels 4?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Were the other ones called Run the Jewels 1, Run the Jewels 2?
Yeah, exactly that. That is exactly what bothers me. It is not the fourth RTJ album. It is the first RTJ album. It's one of those things where, like, the reason this bothers me is because I have a couple of Google Homes, and I would ask them to play Run the Jewels 4, and they would never work. And for a long time, I could not work out why. And then I ended up just checking one day, and it's because it's not called Run the Jewels 4. And I was just like, why is this?
That's
like, I realize it's like the most nothing thing, but at the same time, it really bothers me.
Why did you tell me that? Now it's going to bother me forever.
Yeah, other people have to share in my misery.
It's true. Yeah, okay. What did you think about RTJ4?
So it is my second favorite. I really like it, but I can't. There are times when I was like, I do think this is my favorite, and then I'd listen to RTJ2 again and be like, no, this is the best.
Oh, okay, 2 is your best. That was surprising.
Yeah, 2 is my favorite. 2 is like explicitly my favorite. It is like 2, 4, 3, 1.
Okay.
Like, I didn't get into them till 2 anyway.
Yeah.
So I just don't. Excuse me. I don't really have the familiarity with 1. Like, I know it's literally just me, but
a lot of people do have that.
Yeah. So, like, that could just be a me thing. I wasn't, but like, I've never been that big on 1. 2 is, like I say, what got me into it, and it's the one I've listened to the most. 3, I've listened to it like 20 or so times. It's not like I don't listen to it, but if I want to put a Run the Jewels album on, it's 2, and then now it's 4 or 2. They're very close together. 3 is good, but it was too clean for me. Like, I really like the sort of production on 2. That's like one of the main things that gets me into it. Like,
Oh, I thought you meant they didn't swear enough for you.
oh no. I meant like the production, like it.
Like I was like 3 is pretty.
Yeah, no, it's like I like how heavy the production is on 2. I like how like
Yeah, I get that.
I don't know how to describe it because like I don't have the familiarity with music to accurately talk about it. All I know is like 2 is like heavier.
3 feels poppier.
Yeah, well, that was exactly my thing. Is that 3 feels more broad market, and I'm not trying to say this in a bad way.
No, it is. I mean, I don't think that's a. I think you can make that as like a fair criticism, or even just a. I mean, it's just a difference.
Yeah, so like that, like it's good, but I don't think there is a single track on 3 where I'm like, yeah, I want to listen to this right now. Like, I'll listen to Legend Has It a lot.
Legend Has It is good. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's like pretty much. Oh, fuck, what's it called? I can only remember it has Ticketron in the name.
Oh, I think it's just Ticketron. Is it the Live at the Garden?
Call Ticketron.
Yeah,
Call Ticketron. That's it. So that one, those 2 are the ones that I really remember, and I think it's actually because those 2 are the ones that I heard first.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the ones I have the like most familiarity with off that album. So like yeah, so like 3 was just not all that big for me, whereas like 4 is really good.
Yeah, I really liked 4. 4 was actually that was the first one I listened to as an album. So that was the first one.
Yeah.
Like all the past ones I had just like watched the music videos and scrolled through and seen things. So that was the first one I listened to as an album, and then me and my dad listened to all 4 of them when we were driving to the beach. And so that was we ran the jewels is what we called it.
So 4, I didn't like 4 the first time I listened to it. I was like, when I first listened to 4, I was like, maybe I don't like Run the Jewels, and maybe I just really like 2. But then I've listened to 4 like maybe 60 or so times now.
Yeah, it's good.
I do this thing where, I do this thing with albums where, like, to give you some idea, Run the Jewels 4 is the only new album I've listened to this year.
Yeah, I'm the same way in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Like, so, like, I've just listened to that constantly, basically. So, like, the more I listen to it, the more I liked it. Like, I do really like it now.
Mm-hmm.
The production is very different, and I think it was just that the first few listens took me a while to get through the sort of barrier with it. But as soon as I got through it, I was just like, this is amazing. Whereas I think the point of 2 was that there was never a barrier for me. I was always just like, put 2 on, like, this is amazing, and that is just where I was the entire time. I have exactly one criticism for 2, and it's that the order I would have placed slightly differently. I understand why they did it the way they did, but I would have placed them in a slightly different order.
Do you have a playlist that's in that order?
No. But I've been considering it, but no. The only thing I would have done, I would have put All Due Respect and Love Again before Lie, Cheat, Steal. That is like my only criticism. So like, I'll go through it just for in case someone doesn't know what I'm talking about. It goes Jeopardy, Oh My Darling Don't Cry, Blockbuster Night Part 1, Close Your Eyes and Count to Fuck, All My Life, Lie, Cheat, Steal, Early, All Due Respect, Love Again, Crown, and Angel Duster.
Yeah, Angel Duster wasn't a great ender.
Yeah, well, so I used to think that too. And I still kind of do to some extent, but it's kind of grown on me over time. My only real criticism is that I feel like it's got this weird thing where it's sort of like, it's really heavy, like at the start, especially with like Blockbuster Night. It's sort of like really sort of like energetic and like heavy and shit. And then it starts going down, not in terms of like quality, but just in terms of like
energy.
Yeah, exactly. But then it goes down and then hits the sort of like trough early, where it's a very somber song. And it's arguably probably one of my favorite songs. It is like amazing. Like, are you familiar with Early? I know you've listened to it, but
I'm trying to think. Yeah, my memory is escaping.
That's fine. Early is, my interpretation of it might be wrong, but it's the one that's about a black man smoking weed and then the police killing his wife.
Yeah, was that the one?
Yeah.
Which is the one where they both talk about their friend that died? Was that on 2? Where like each one of their verses was about like where LP had his verse and he talked about his friend that died, and then
I don't know.
I think that might have been on 3 actually.
Okay. In this one, it's the first. The first sort of section is about Mike is a black guy getting arrested for smoking weed.
Yes, I know this one.
And then his wife gets murdered, and then the second half is LP as. Now, again, this is where my interpretation might be wrong, but I've always read it as he is a drug dealer, and Mike is just a guy smoking weed. And I have always read it as sort of like it's a like exploration of the sort of way the like police and justice system treat people differently, even though they're committing arguably the same, if not for some like on the other end, worse crimes purely based on their skin tones.
Yeah,
that's what I've always read from it. I was actually like I've been debating writing a video just about this song recently, but part of the reasons I've not been doing it is because like I don't have the familiarity with music to talk about stuff in like a level I'd be comfortable with. But yeah, so it reaches this sort of like trough with Early, of like just in terms of energy, like it's a very somber song, and then it just takes this big spike straight back up with All Due Respect. And then Love Again is just entirely about like it's kind of hard to tell perspectives if it's all like if LP and Mike are playing the same character or if they're just talking about people with similar experiences, but it's all just about having sex, right? So you've got this incredibly somber song, then 2 really energetic, one all about sex and another one just like kind of still about sex, and then it goes back down to Crown and Angel Duster, and it just feels weird to me having this like trough then suddenly spiking back up and then going back down again.
Yeah.
The only thing I would do is put, like I say, All Due Respect and Love Again before Lie, Cheat, Steal. The only reason I do that is because Lie, Cheat, Steal feeds into Early, so you couldn't actually split them up. But yeah, sorry, I realise I've just spoken for like 15 minutes just on my machete order for Run the Jewels 2. But
oh, that's fine. We should do like a whole podcast and get Pyre on and talk about Run the Jewels.
Yeah, I'm reticent to talk about music because, like I was saying, like I don't actually have much familiarity with it, and I actually just know Run the Jewels 2 a lot because I've listened to it like 300 or 400 times. I get very obsessive about music. Like I find specific things I like and listen to it endlessly.
I do too. Yeah, I'm the same way.
I also really like Life of Pablo.
Yeah, I'm. What was the Kanye? Kids See Ghosts was kind of mine like that, where I got really into it for a while.
So this is my thing is that I've never listened to it, and the point I'm making is that I will usually listen to like maybe one album and then get obsessed with that album, but not listen to anything else by the same people.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was actually a good 2 weeks between RTJ4 coming out and me actually listening to it, just because like I was uncomfortable with the idea of listening to it.
Just a new.
Well, there's that, but like, I like it's weird. Like it's not like I follow bands. I just like I hear a song, like the song, listen to that album, but I very rarely delve into like their backlog or follow them any further.
I'm very similar. I even to a certain extent it'll be like maybe not even an album. It'll be like 3 or 4 songs, or even 2 or 3 songs. I'm that way with a lot of. I have 2 or 3 songs that I really like from a lot of different punk bands, and so I just made a playlist.
Yeah,
you know, and if you look at the playlist, it shows you which bands I really like more because they're on that playlist more.
Yeah. I think the last band that I actually like really followed was like My Chemical Romance, to be honest.
Yeah, I for a while when I was really getting more into hip hop, I was listening to release after release of different things and just trying to especially when Anderson .Paak was releasing a lot of stuff, I was really up on that. And I mean, I would jump on a new Kendrick Lamar album if it came out, but I'm the same way. I don't really, and I don't really listen to a lot of albums. I wish I did. I wish I listened to more because I enjoy the experience of an album, but it feels like it's the same reason I don't watch a lot of like
TV shows and stuff.
No, it's the same reason I don't watch a lot of or a lot of like movies from very specific directors, because I feel like I want to sit down and like give that album the time it deserves. You know, and so that often means that I don't find new music.
Like, the only time I really like listen to music and stuff is in the shower. Like, I will very rarely put on an album while I'm doing work if I don't want to get distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm watching like YouTube videos or something, I will distract myself with the video from my work. So very occasionally I'll put just an album that I already know on in the background, so I'm not like actually paying attention to it, but that there's something there still to like stop me getting bored, kind of. I have to do multiple things at once. But I'm like actually like I'm like the same with like TV shows and everything. Like, I don't watch TV. Like, I don't watch films.
I don't watch a whole lot of
like outside of like very specific films I already know that I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really watch much. Like, I'll go out of my way to see a Quentin Tarantino film, and I've watched all the Marvel films just because I like them.
Yeah.
But like, there's very rarely a time when I'll actually go out and watch a film. I haven't seen the Sonic film yet.
It's kind of hard to go out and watch a film right now, but
well, that's the thing though, because like it was in cinemas before all this happened, and I had plans to see it, and it just never actually went.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with Joker, actually. Like, I was supposed to go see Joker last October and just never did.
Do you prefer watching movies like in your home?
No. Like, I was actually talking about this earlier today. I explicitly prefer going to a cinema to see them, because in terms of like ranking for me, movies, music, and TV shows are like the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the things I will do the least. So like just about anything else comes above them. So when I'm at home, I'm like, I could watch a film, or I could do literally anything else.
Yeah.
And I will do the anything else. Whereas if I'm already out, I'm like, I have gone outside, I'm gonna like we're already out, we're going to see a film, and then I'll sit there and watch the film. I'll be fine. Like, I'll be happy with it. I'll enjoy it. But when I'm at home, I would not watch the same film on my own. Like, not even on my own. I would just wouldn't watch the same film, like, sitting in my living room.
Yeah. A lot of the films and TV I watch, I really only watch with my dad. Mm-hmm. And it's stuff that, like, we started watching Vinland Saga, and like having someone to be able to be like, hey, you want to watch this and keep me attached to it is the only way I really can watch a series or something, unless it's short.
Yeah, like I did something similar with Attack on Titan. Like, my wife and I watched the first season of Attack on Titan in one go.
Mm-hmm. I think me and my dad did too.
And then neither of us have watched anything since. I watched the first season and we just never picked it back up again because we didn't do it together, and then we just never bothered.
Do you prefer manga?
No. I do prefer anime, but
because I read a lot of manga, and that's the reason I don't like watch a lot of any TV, is because I consume a lot of the Eastern television that I would be watching in comic form.
Yeah. Well, I basically just watch YouTube videos.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but so it's one of my things is that I actually I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch so much YouTube, as we've kind of spoken about previously. I actually watch everything at 2 times speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I don't watch more anime is because I can't watch it at 2 times speed. Because I obviously I prefer to watch subbed and dubbed. So I can't read the subtitles at 2 times speed, and I can't understand what they're saying. So I have to like carve out specific times for me to actually watch anime, and I find it really hard to do that. Like, outside of like Studio Trigger shows, I tend to not do it.
Mm-hmm.
I like JoJo. I have not watched past the first season of JoJo.
Why do you not then just read the manga?
because that is the same thing. It's just like for one thing, that would mean buying it. For another, I just like reading is again something that I like. I'd rather watch videos or play games.
Yeah. I find that I like manga because I can often read it at a much faster pace than the anime goes, which is just the reason why I ask that. But yeah, I get that.
Yeah, like I started reading it's not a manga, obviously, it's an actual book. But the last time I started reading something was I started reading House of Leaves. And I got up to chapter 9, which is when things start getting weird. And then I just stopped. And that was last March. It's been literally over a year since I touched a book. I find it really hard to actually just sit down and do like one thing, and like reading a book requires me to do one thing.
I do too. It's why what I read is either comics or manga, or the books that I go through are all audio.
Yeah.
Because I keep my audio, like Audible, the app will keep your speed, whatever speed you have it set to.
Yeah, what was that called? I remember they used to make a big deal out of it on the podcast.
No, that's you're thinking of Whisper Sync.
Yeah, Whisper Sync.
That's where they would sync it across from Kindle to Audible.
Yeah.
But it keeps your, like, so I have mine set on 1.5 speed, and if I buy and download a new book it will start at 1.5 speed.
That's good.
And so I'm just used to hearing audiobooks at that speed.
Yeah, I think I could probably get into audiobooks. But then again, like, I say that, but I don't even really listen to podcasts. And they're like kind of like audiobooks in the sort of like delivery system.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, which I used to earlier last year, I guess. I was driving to school and then to work and back every day, and then I was driving a lot more than I regularly was. So and even at work when I was pushing buggies or whatever, I would listen to podcasts or audiobooks, and I would burn through them. That's what I did the first 2 Witcher books like that.
I used to listen to podcasts a lot when I was going to uni. Because it was like, at the worst time, it was literally 2 hours a day. Like, no, sorry, not 2 hours a day. The trip was 2 hours, so it was 4 hours a day there and back. So it was like, that used to be exactly the length of one Super Best Friends podcast, because like when I was actually traveling to uni was before they split up.
And they kept it a little shorter then than they do now.
But it used to be that amount of time, so I could listen to one on the journey. So back then I would listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff, but now I just I do all of my work from home. And like the only times I really go out, I'm with other people, so I don't have that time to myself to listen to stuff. So like the only other time I do that now is like I'll listen to podcasts like in the shower. But
yeah, that's something I was talking to my dad about. Since we both were home because of the pandemic, we've lost our podcast and audiobook time.
Yeah.
And so I've been listening to them a lot less since I've been home, and since I haven't been just in a car for a lot of my day, or what feels like a lot of my day at least.
So to give you some idea, like the Castle Super Beast podcast, I'm up to episode 22 of that. They just released episode 78 this week, so I'm 56 episodes behind.
Yeah, so I actually will just skip a week if I don't listen to it in the week.
Oh, I can't do that
because for whatever reason it just doesn't. Since there's so much like news that they talk about, and I mean not really news, but they're it's kind of my only podcast for like game news that I get that from. And so if I miss a week, I'll go back and like watch the clips on the YouTube channel, and then and for a while I was just watching the clips because I could add that into my YouTube diet a little more naturally than than watching a
Yeah,
podcast.
I think I'd honestly be more. Oh, excuse me. I think I'd honestly be more likely to watch the entire thing, like if it was on YouTube, than I am to just listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been going for 2 hours and we haven't finished my questions yet.
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's literally one left. Okay. So, what is one thing that you'd like to make, but you don't feel like you can? So it's not just a matter of like, I haven't got around to it, but you feel like there's actually something in your way from doing this one video, be it like you'd actually have to like buy new stuff, or like just be it like, I don't know, like some sort of like external limitation.
There's a couple things. One is an album
Mm-hmm.
or any sort of like musical project, because as much as I mean, it blows me away how much people like multi-instrumentalists and how well people like people who just are the only dude on their album.
Yeah.
But also I feel like I would prefer to write and create music in a band, in a collaborative environment. And so I just don't really have one in this current situation we're in. I can't really get out and start a band. And two, I don't really know a lot of people around me or have enough room in my house or know people with room for a drum set and a bunch of setups and stuff. So that's kind of the limitation for that. So I end up just practicing music on my own and wishing I was in a band.
Yeah. So in that sort of context, like, do you prefer working with other people or like working on your own and stuff?
I like working with other people a lot, especially with music. Yeah. I feel like I would. It depends on the situation and what I'm making, but with music, I definitely feel like there's some sort of value in the collaborative nature, more so than maybe I don't know about more so, but
yeah, I know what you mean.
More to me than other things.
Yeah. It sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like the drive to make things and stuff. I have always found it a lot easier to. I wouldn't say that my sort of like level of like motivation changes, but I found it a lot easier to finish a project when working with other people.
Yeah, I mean, I would even go far as to say sometimes my level of motivation would change if I have someone. I mean, it's what I was talking about with watching a movie or watching a television series with my dad, and it's just someone to just kind of be like, hey, we kind of forgot about watching this. Let's watch it. Someone to just kind of nudge you even. I think in terms of video content that I would like to make, since that's kind of what we've been talking about, that I feel like I have a hurdle. There's a lot of games that I would love to talk about that I just don't want to replay.
Oh yeah. No, I have that exact same thing. I once started work on a video about Pagan Min from Far Cry 4, and I was really interested in the topic. To give you a brief breakdown, I think that Pagan Min is the actual only good character in that game, and I don't mean good character as in well written. I mean they are like actually like
morally good.
Yes, like I believe that Pagan Min is morally good. I think he has like I think the actions that the game shows you to say this person is evil are extreme, and like I think he is eccentric, but like to give you some idea, like one of the have you played Far Cry 4?
It's been a while.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. For like refresher and for people who don't already know, one of the very first things you see from Pagan Min is you get off a bus and he stabs a guy in the chest.
Yes, that's a very Far Cry thing, right?
Yeah. Well, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? If you say you get off a bus and the first thing you see is this guy stab a guy in the chest, that sounds terrible. When you frame it as his like missing son has just come back, and the first thing that happens is some guy who works for him shoots up a bus with him on it, and then you crawl out of the bus and he is like he's like infuriated. He's like incredibly angry and kills the guy who almost killed you. While extreme, I think that it's not morally acceptable, sure, but it is at least understandable. Like the level of anger from this person is at least understandable.
It would be like the level of anger you would see in a protagonist when they're tested.
Yeah. Well, that's the sort of thing I mean. It's like there are a lot of times when Pagan Min takes action which is extreme, and he takes action which is wrong, but I don't think the game actually frames him in such a way that he is evil. He just acts at the most extreme level. I don't think they frame him in a negative enough light for you to actually believe he's evil, especially when you see the places where the people you're working with go to. So, like, by the end of the game, do you mind if I spoil it in case you don't want to remember?
Yeah, sure. It's been a while.
Okay. By the end of the game, you have basically a choice between working with there's a man who is who wants to be in charge, and his sister. The guy is like religious extremist, wants everything to remain as they used to. The woman is aggressive, like trying to aggressively modernize the country. But when they get in charge, the guy the guy sort of creates this like religious hierarchy and like actively like kills everyone underneath him. I think I'm a bit vague on him exactly because I took her route because I thought she was like the lesser of two evils, but still evil. She explicitly murders a young girl you've been looking after, and then goes out and starts kidnapping children to form a child army and starts selling drugs. And it's just like, I get that the saying is, oh, it's like all like shades of grey, but the only negative things you ever see Pagan Min do is you see him kill a guy because he almost killed you. You see him torture some people who are trying to kill him. You see him kill some people who are hiding the people trying to kill him.
It's all par for the course in the setting, right? In this,
well, there's that, but what I'm saying is that it's all actions that, while extreme, I think can be justified. Like torture can't be justified, but the fact that he's explicitly working to protect himself, and like there's one thing about a chef, which is a story that you are told through like notes about a chef who he kills because he doesn't make the food that he likes, and like, okay, fair enough, that one is there is no two ways about that bit is wrong. But then the only other thing they talk about that's really terrible is that he's selling drugs. But I think they don't go far enough to explain this because, like I can justify it to myself as there can be medical uses for opium. So it doesn't explicitly say that he's actually selling them for. It doesn't say that he's selling them for medical reasons, but it doesn't say he's not.
yeah.
And like, I don't think they ever show Pagan Min as pure evil, or evil enough for you to justify the actions you take and that the rest of the people you're with take. But I also think that he is the only chance that Kyrat ever has of stable leadership, especially when, if you take the 15-minute ending option, are you familiar with this one?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so if you wait 15 minutes, you like leave, you immediately resolve the entire conflict of like placing your sister's ashes. Placing your mother's ashes with your sister, which like gets immediately like resolved, and then you fly off with him to rule over Kyrat. And I think that in that ending, you are actually doing what is best for Kyrat. And I think the entire rest of the game actually just leads Kyrat down a worse path. So, as far as I'm concerned, Pagan Min is a good guy.
You could have. I mean, yeah. So now you've let that out. You don't need to make the video anymore, right?
Well, there's that, but the reason I never made it was because I didn't want to play through Far Cry 4 again.
Yeah.
Like, that was the entire reason. I've been sitting on this like theory for years, but I didn't want to make it because I didn't want to play through the game again to capture all the footage.
Yeah, I'm in a similar kind of situation, and I will make a video on these games eventually because I love these games too much to not, if I'm going to continue making videos. But Earthbound and Super Mario RPG are two of my favorite games, just period. And I've played them so many times that, like, going back to them to make a video, I'm like, well, I could make a video on a game I haven't played a bajillion times. You know, I could try something new, or even going back to play those games, I just kind of say, well, there's other RPGs like that I haven't played, and there's other, you know, but so that's kind of a roadblock that I've had with those in my head a little bit, but I'm definitely gonna make a video on those games eventually.
Like, your videos take a lot more work than mine, I would assume, at least because of the like analytical nature of them, whereas mine is mostly just espousing my opinions.
I mean, I don't know.
That's a lot of how I felt about the Terraria one. In that I've spent 500 hours or so playing Terraria. Like, I didn't really need to spend any more time playing Terraria.
Yeah.
But like when I started playing it again for the final update, I was like, I have opinions on this. Is it really worth me doing? And then I ended up doing it, and at the time, I wasn't sure if I could justify it to myself. And if I look externally, I still don't know if I can. But at the same time, I'm like, it was worth doing. And like, I think that's a lot of what I'm trying to get at, is that the value of the thing at times is more. It's more important to do the thing that you know and to do the thing that you care about than it is to do the thing just because it's new.
Yeah. One thing, I kind of lost what I was thinking about.
Sorry.
It's all right. I always said like, oh, if I had someone that I could like play Earthbound with and have them experience it for the first time alongside me, then that would probably drive me to maybe want to revisit that game. Like if I was watching a friend play it or playing it alongside a friend who had never played it before, that would probably push me to want to play it again. But I don't replay a lot of games.
No, I like these conversations I've been a part of, like in the Discord especially, where it's like people talking about like the replay value of games. I can count on one hand the number of games I've replayed.
And there's some games that I feel like by their very nature are replayed. Like I've replayed Super Hot a lot because that's just kind of how it is. And I've played, there are games that I go back to a lot, but a lot of them are like Enter the Gungeon or
games without explicit ends and things like that.
Or games that I had when I was younger and I didn't have as many games at my fingertips, right? I think I played Uncharted 2 a lot because that game just was very impressive to me when I was younger. And I'll even go back and play missions of games. Like I'll go back and play the train mission in Uncharted 2 or like New Mombasa in Halo 2. But I probably won't replay those games.
No. I think it's weird because like for me, I don't like replaying stuff because like why would I replay it when I could do something new? Which is like kind of weird considering the conversation we literally just had about the value of like doing things because you care about them. But like if I've already played a game, usually there isn't much new for me to take from it, or there's not enough new for me to take from it that I care. Whereas like I think one of the few games I've played more than once is Paper Mario 1000 Year Door. Like I've played through that.
Me too.
Maybe 2 or 3 times. Even then, it's not like tons, but it was just really fucking good.
Actually, I've never beaten 1000 Year Door.
Really? It's really good.
I have gotten to the final dungeon and the final boss multiple times, and I don't think I ever like when I was, because I played it when I was younger, and it was one of those games where I would like, the first time I played through it, I got to the final dungeon, and I was a dumb baby child and couldn't figure it out. Right. So then I played it again when I was a little bit older and restarted it. And it's a game that I've played like the first half of a bajillion times. And I've played it.
Yeah. I've played I used to play up to the wrestling bit because I like that.
Yeah, me too.
I'd do the wrestling bit and then start again or something like that.
And I have a lot of JRPGs are like that for me. I never beat Final Fantasy VI. I just got to the very close to the end. And then when I picked it back up, I didn't want to start from a place that was just right there at the end. I dropped it for a while and picked it back up, and then I didn't want to start over either. So I was like, I've seen the final boss of this game on plenty of top 10 YouTube videos, so it's for all intents and purposes, I did pretty much play the game. I just
yeah, I feel kind of bad because like the first Final Fantasy game I actually finished was 15. And like I've always like I own quite a few of the other ones.
I didn't finish 15. I couldn't finish 15.
I really liked 15, but what I mean is just that, like I it's weird because I actually really like JRPGs, and I own quite a few of them, but I've just like never played up to 15. I'd basically never played a Final Fantasy game.
I'm the same way.
I think I've put like a couple of hours into like 3 or 4, and that was like it.
I put a lot into 4. I really liked 4, but again, there are very few Final Fantasies that I've beat. There are plenty where I have gotten to the late game and then dropped.
Yeah.
And then haven't wanted to go back.
The only other one I've like done now is 7.
Yeah. So
like not 7. Sorry, not even 7. I mean remake. I did remake.
So the only
that's it.
Let me think. The only Final Fantasies that I've beaten are 1 and 7. The rest of them that I've played, I either dropped off and still haven't picked them back up, or got very, very close to the end, dropped off, and in my brain it feels like I've beaten them.
So I was just thinking we should probably start wrapping this up soon, because
Sure thing, yeah.
You said you had 3 hours, and that means you have 15 minutes left.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we usually just eat around 5, so it's cool. If whatever. Yeah.
I did have like one more question before we go, though.
Sure thing.
So, just on the topic we were just talking about, it made me think, like, how often do you think you actually like finish a game?
It's been more often recently since I've been playing smaller games, and I've made kind of a conscious decision to play smaller games. I've been playing a lot of first-person shooters with kind of very precise campaigns. So I played through Half-Life 1 and 2, I played through Titanfall 2, and then we were talking about Halo at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I've been finishing a lot more games lately because the kind of games I've been playing are games that have very short and focused campaigns. In terms of overall, I'd say I probably beat less than half of the games I play.
Yeah. Like,
or like half of the games I've started. Let me say that.
So far this year, I have... Sorry, it's just hidden itself. I'm just going to bring it back up. I have played 94 games, right? And I've finished 46 of them. So I've finished slightly over... Sorry, not slightly over. Slightly... No.
Yeah.
Yeah, slightly under half of the games that I've played. And that's like a good year. Like last year, it was way less. And in general, I finish so many... Wow, that sentence made no sense. I finished so much fewer games. So much fewer... You know what I mean? I finished way less games than like I start, and I finished way less games than I own. Like, on Steam, I own about 1,300 games.
Yeah.
And I've played about 300 of them, and I've finished about 100 of them. And like, that's like a tenth of the games that I own I've actually finished. Like, it's so unlikely for me to finish a game. And one of the reasons I brought this up is because of the length of JRPGs. It made me think about it. I have like a weirdly like hard limit on games. And it's not like intentional or anything. I just noticed that whenever I hit about the 40-hour mark, if I'm not either right near the end or have finished it, I just tend to fall off.
Yeah, I'm very similar to that, except I think my hour mark might be lower. I don't know what it exactly is, but...
Like, Persona 4 got 40 hours in and then dropped it. Persona 5, 40 hours in and then dropped it. The vast majority of JRPGs I've ever played got about 40 hours in and then dropped them. Like, I like all of them. I care.
Yeah.
But I get to this, like, limit, and I'm just like, I can't bring myself to play anymore. And I'm like, it's never intentional. It's like I put it down one day, and I'm like, I will get back to this tomorrow. And then it's 6 months later, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah, and then you come back to a big game like that, and you feel like you can't start 40 hours in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, it's like, you pick it back up, and I'm like, I play for, like, 5 minutes, and I'm like, eh, and then just stop again, and then that's, like, the last time I've ever touched it.
That's how I've been with Final Fantasy IX for, like, the past year and a half.
Yeah. Well, the last time I played Final Fantasy. The last time I played Persona 4 was 2015. I've just never been back to it since. And it's like, I care. I would like to go back to it, but I'm never going to. I already know now I'm never going to.
Yeah. I'm looking at, because on my desk, I have all my physical games, because my desk, it's like a bookshelf desk. And I've been looking at them as we've been talking and thinking about. And, like, some of them, obviously, like, like DJ Hero doesn't really count in that games you've played and then beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's games on like
Mhm.
that I'm looking at here that I consider like in my top 10 games, and I realize I've never beat them. Punch Out being one of my favorite games of
Yeah.
all time, and I've never managed to beat that without using save states, at least. Like without
Mm.
save scumming.
Yeah. So that's there's two things there. So that's one of the reasons why in my like when I do my game of the year lists and stuff, one of the reasons why I only put games on there that I've finished is to stop myself doing that, because there's a lot of games that I really like that I've never finished, so I don't
Mhm.
feel comfortable putting them in like top 10 positions. Like I say, it's purely because I've not finished them, because like part of me is always like, but what if it goes to shit in the second half, or um but that actually like also made me think, what I'd realized I said we were going to wrap up at the last question, but I've got just one more that I've just thought about.
It's fine.
What do you consider like a game that you can finish? So you were saying that you don't think that like DJ Hero is a like counts as a game that you finish, whereas I would, because it has a finite end. You can keep playing it to get better at it, but it has a set sort of course, and you can do all of it, and then that'll stop. There is no more new content after you've got all the content out of it. There is just getting better at the content that already exists.
Yeah, I guess a lot of that is from how I play DJ Hero. Like I just kind of
Mhm.
play those games in the free play mode.
Yeah.
Rock Band 2, I don't really I just play the songs that I enjoy. I don't really do the kind of mission or the core mode or the like in Rock Band it's like almost a story mode.
Yeah.
I think maybe a better example of a game that I can't beat is like Harvest Moon.
Hmm.
I got a couple Harvest Moons up here. I got like Sim City
Yeah.
for the SNES. I played that a lot, but
Mm.
or Mario Paint even is a great example of games you can't really
Yeah.
beat.
I used to I used to have Mario Paint, but I bought
I
it.
have the mouse somewhere.
Well, that was my point. I bought it. We didn't get the mouse. I couldn't work out how to play it, so we got rid of it.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
I need to get since I still have a pretty good SNES. I need to pick up Shadowrun
Mm.
since that supports the mouse, and if I have the mouse, I might as well play
Yeah.
the RPG on the SNES that supports the mouse.
Yeah.
But some of the games that I have in my collection, I didn't really buy with the intention of finishing. I
Yeah.
bought because for a while I was collecting physical video games, and I'm not really doing that anymore.
Hmm.
But like, I'm never gonna beat Maniac Mansion for the NES,
No.
you know,
Yeah.
or even probably even Dragon Warrior for the NES. I've played the updated versions, but it's just I bought that to have it. I have a physical copy of Mother 3, and like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna play that unless I learn Japanese down the line. But
Yeah.
so a lot of these games I bought when I was a more into collecting and having them for the game than for playing it.
Yeah. So like for me, the reason I bring this up like really is because like I know that some of the ways I judge games, or rather classify finishing a game, is like different from other people. Like
Mm-hmm.
for me, like Horizon Zero Dawn's a really good example. Actually, no, let's go with Xenoblade because it's more recent. Xenoblade Chronicles has an extra section attached to it, and for me, I count that as a separate game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason I count it as a separate game is because it has separate credits, it has a separate start screen. Um, like it's entirely separate, but it is literally just an extra chapter of the main game. Now, if
How do you feel about Near Automata then?
yeah, no, so that's actually kind of what I was going to get at with this. Is that like if it was still just attached to the main game, I wouldn't count it as a separate game. But if it has like separate credits, I do. Now, even if you hit credits multiple times in the case of like Nier, I don't count that as like one game until. Sorry, I don't count like each run as a separate game.
Because it's the same credits every time.
Yeah. Like similar with like it's gone up already now. So I did Super Hot Mind Control Delete, and it's like how you hit the credits like 30 seconds into the game, with
Yeah.
that. Like, technically, I could be like, oh, I finished the game. But no, I didn't. Like, I've not finished the game at all. Like, but there's stuff with, like, back to the original example I was going to use, Horizon Zero Dawn. That has two sets of credits. It has the credits for the main game, and it has the credits for the DLC. So I count the DLC separate, even though the DLC is within the world of the game.
Yeah.
So,
because I mean, that's like you finish the game and then you finish the expansion.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. What I was getting at is that for me, I count expansions as separate products, whereas I know other people who wouldn't. So I was just wondering where you stand on that.
It depends. Like, I wouldn't consider, what's the Blue Shift or what's the other one for Half-Life 1?
I've not got Steam up at the moment, so I can't check.
The one with
I don't know what you mean.
What's his name? Yeah, the coolest dude in Half-Life that only showed up once.
I'm looking at the
Opposing Force.
Yeah, I was looking at the Wikipedia page. I couldn't get it up fast enough. Yeah, Opposing Force.
Opposing Force, that's
Blue
it.
Shift and whatever the third one was.
I mean, Opposing Force arguably is a better game than Half-Life 1.
So I've never gone back to them because I actually only finished. I didn't even finish Half-Life. I finished Black Mesa this year.
Oh yeah.
So I haven't been back to either of them.
Opposing Force and Blue Shift are both really good, and they both feel like individual games on the same engine.
Yeah.
At the same time, I would say something like, maybe even like the Bloodborne DLC.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I've beaten Bloodborne.
No,
because I haven't beaten the Old Hunters.
And that's weird because using Horizon as an example again, it's weird because literally the only difference there is that there isn't credits. And yet for me, I agree.
Yeah.
Although, do I agree?
Well,
I don't even know.
I think the thing, I don't know how Horizon does it. Is the expansion for Horizon, like, does it add that to the world, or is it like...
So that's the thing. It adds it to the world. Why do people keep pinging me? It adds it to the world, but it's in an entirely new area separate from the entire rest of the world. And it has its own storyline, which takes about 15 to 20 hours, depending on how you do.
Wow, that's a lot of content.
Yeah, I think it only took me like 12, but like I also had already completed everything else in the main game first, so I was like massively overpowered for this section. But it also has like its entire it's a storyline that only exists in this area of the world, and it has its own credit sequence and everything at the end, and then you get dumped back out into the main world.
Yeah, I mean that feels like it could be sold as a standalone.
Yeah, that's that kind of.
Do you feel like it?
Yeah. Like Left Behind.
That would be my criteria, because I don't feel like you could sell the Old Hunters as a standalone product.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
But you can actually buy Opposing Force or Blue Shift as standalone products. I don't know if this was the case when they came out, but I know on Steam you don't have to have Half-Life 1 to have those games. So I feel like since I didn't beat Opposing Force, it doesn't feel like I didn't beat Half-Life. It feels like I didn't beat Opposing Force. I'm trying to think I had an example. I had a really good example to bring up, and then I forgot it. I was going to ask, do you consider like the upside down castle in Symphony of the Night? How does that kind of, because that's not really an expansion, but that is...
Yeah, no, for me...
kind of a separate thing. There's like a true ending if you do that, but it's...
That... Right. That I count as its own separate thing. Sorry, no, that's the exact opposite of what I meant to say. I don't count that as its own separate thing. I also don't necessarily count any of the other early endings as endings, because I think that one is the ending. Do you get what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
But Hollow Knight...
Yes, Hollow Knight was the example I was trying to think of.
I don't care about like the God Home. I don't care about that. I'm never going to do that. And I also don't particularly care about the Radiance. So I actually finished this late last year. I finished it either late last year, late last year. Right. So I don't particularly care about the Radiance.
Was the Radiance added as part of the DLC?
No, I think the Radiance was always in there. I think True Radiance was added as the DLC. True Radiance is
Radiance.
from
Yep.
True Radiance from God Home. Like I don't care about that. But do you know? Have you ever done that or seen people do that? It's fucking ridiculous.
It is. It's crazy.
Like I watched someone run through the entire thing once. The fact that you have to fight every single boss first and then True Radiance is ridiculous.
But
I'm just never going to do that.
The thing with Hollow Knight is like, when I played it, all of those DLCs were already out and they were already part of the game. Like when
right. So one of the reasons why I don't count. So right, I'm a bit weird. Personally, I don't count doing the DLCs as separate, but I do count all the DLCs combined as separate. Like, do you get what I mean?
I do. I disagree, because for me, when I was playing through Hollow Knight, I didn't know what was DLC and what wasn't.
Oh yeah, well that's actually like the benefit to Hollow Knight is that it blurs those lines so well. Yeah, like this is more of an in general thing than with Hollow Knight, because Hollow Knight is actually really weird in this sort of example, because like it's hard to tell with what's DLC and what's not, because it fits so well into the world most of the time. I think God Home is the one that fits into the world the worst.
And it's all it's all free too. Yeah. So when you buy the game now, then you get all of that as part of the core experience of the game.
It's weird, because for me, I would say that place I got up to in Hollow Knight is the ending. And I don't know if I'm just saying that because that's where I care, or if it's because that's what I actually believe. Do you get what I mean? Like, am I just justifying my own...
Yeah.
Like, not failure.
That's how I did it too. I got all the endings and I was like, okay, I didn't do God Home. I didn't do all of the DLC stuff. What is it, like 120%?
Yeah, 112.
112. I think I got to like 90% completion.
I did almost all of it. I got like every mask shard. I got all of the what's the other thing called? Well, all the health upgrades. I got all of those. I got all the nail upgrades. I did almost every boss. I did all the dream nail upgrades. Now, what I didn't do was I didn't do Nightmare King Grim.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I didn't do any of the God Home stuff because I did not care. Like, boss rushes have never been my thing. And I also didn't do Radiance.
True Radiance.
No, I didn't do the Radiance.
Oh. See,
so that's what I'm saying. I understand how to get it. I can get to it. I just don't care. Like, I cannot bring myself to care about doing it.
I felt like
I probably could.
Out of everything in the game, like there was a bunch of stuff that I still left to do in the game. And I don't normally ever 100% games anyways, but yeah. For me, I felt like Radiance was like Hollow Knight as a boss wasn't really challenging. There's a lot more challenging bosses.
Yeah.
And so I felt
Hollow Knight is like pretty easy comparatively.
Yeah, even compared to like the dude in the Soul Sanctum, I think Hollow Knight is pretty easy to learn.
Oh god, he like fucked me up.
Yeah.
Like there was legitimate times I considered dropping the game.
Oh yeah, that was the worst. But
he was one of them. I also had a lot of trouble with the Watchers.
Yes, yeah. But because of that challenge, because of that, or the lack of challenge in fighting Hollow Knight, I felt like the Radiance was the kind of like that was my stopping point for me, because I felt disappointed in fighting Hollow Knight, and then when I learned about the Radiance, I learned about it I think from the Discord server. I was like, oh, there's another boss in that section that's like stronger and crazier, and it took me forever to beat Radiance. I can't imagine doing a higher form of that in any way. It took me forever to learn all of that, and so that's why like it felt like a satisfying conclusion there for me personally.
Yeah. Did you do Path of Pain?
Is that the platforming section with all the saws?
It's the harder version of the platforming section with all the saws. So did you do White Palace?
Yes.
Right. I did the White Palace, but I didn't do Path of Pain.
I'm trying to remember. I think I did Path of Pain.
Right. Okay. Apparently, it's not as long as I always think it is, but I didn't care. Like so this actually speaks to it speaks to one of the you talked about doing Path of Pain and me not doing it, and you also talked about feeling not happy with the challenge from the Hollow Knight and being happy with the challenge from what's it and feeling more satisfied by it.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of speaks to one of the differences that there is between the two of us and between like my argument with a lot of other people about stuff like this is that I don't care about challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I don't have any issues stopping because something I just find something it's not even too hard because like I can beat hard things. I can do hard games, like that's fine. Like I know they're not actually hard, but I've beaten all of the Souls games except Sekiro and Demon Souls. Demon Souls just because I got into it after that, and Sekiro because it didn't really grab me.
Mm-hmm.
But I've beaten all of the other games. I beat Neo, which is arguably harder.
Yeah, Neo's rough, dude.
But yeah, so like I can do hard stuff. But if I'm not enjoying the fight, I just don't care about doing it. And the point with the Radiance for me is that it was more challenging. I get that, but I was not enjoying the challenge enough for me to care.
Yeah.
And if I have like a very fine balance with this, so like if it gets to the point where I'm not enjoying the challenge and I stop caring, I find it really hard to even try. And because I had already hit 2 other endings at that point, I was just like, I've hit endings that I'm happy with. I understand that there's more. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't blame anyone for ending earlier, but I can completely understand why other people would go further.
Yeah. I have that same thing with Bloodborne. So I beat Bloodborne. I felt like the final boss was a little underwhelming.
Which final boss?
The Moon Presence.
Okay, right, yeah.
Like compared to it's a very similar situation, right? It's almost the inverse situation where, what's the old hunter guy's name? It's escaping me. Garrison. Yeah, Garrison is a much harder fight than the secret fight.
The Moon Presence, yeah.
The true fight, yeah. Moon Presence is. I think I beat Moon Presence on my first try. It took me forever to beat Garrison.
Yeah, same. It was either my first or second. Like he was way easier compared to
Mm-hmm. I think it might have been my second because you go straight from Garrison to Moon Presence.
Yeah,
and then you can play it again. But it was my first full try. And then I got to Old Hunters. I bought the DLC, and I made the mistake of getting the DLC like starting New Game Plus and then going straight to the DLC.
Yeah. No, I almost did that, but then I ended up creating an entirely new save file and playing all the way through it and getting up to the final boss on a new save file, and then just did the Old Hunters on that.
Yeah, so maybe that's why Old Hunters felt like so bonkers hard for me.
To some extent, yes, but to another extent, no. It is just fucked at times.
Yeah, it is. I still haven't gotten through. What's it? Ludwig.
Yeah, no, I almost dropped it.
Ludwig was where I stopped, and I begrudgingly was like, okay, this challenge is not good enough for me. I wanted to keep going back to it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, I completely understand that because I very nearly dropped it at Ludwig.
And so I might go back to Bloodborne and do New Game Plus and play through New Game Plus and then do it so I can get levels and improve things and get more shards but also I might just play one of the other Souls games because I've never touched another Souls game besides that.
So Ludwig is hard.
Yeah.
I think it's worth beating him purely because behind him is a way better fight. And it's kind of a shame, to be honest, but Lady Maria is really good. Like one of the best fights in the series. She is amazing.
Yeah, and that's why I said begrudgingly gave up because I knew what came after
so
Ludwig.
The only thing I'm saying is that if Lady Maria was not behind Ludwig, I would not care. because I don't think Orphan of Cause is worth it. I think Orphan of Cause is bullshit. Like, I
Yeah.
did not enjoy that at all. But Lady Maria is worth it. And it's like,
Man, imagine doing this live like the boys do.
oh no. It's like
That would suck.
all the pauses when I'm just like, I don't know what to say for like 20 minutes. And I'm just like,
But at least you can edit those out. At least you don't have a chat.
yeah, no. The area between Ludwig and, oh god, I'm like trying to even remember, because Ludwig is actually surprisingly early in.
Yeah, that's another reason it kind of just takes you off guard.
The areas between Ludwig and Lady Maria are not that bad, but kind of annoying, right? Lady Maria is amazing. And, oh, are they before or after? I think they're before, aren't they? Because you break the window. Yeah? Sorry, I'm just talking to myself. I'm trying to remember the order of something. There is a boss fight immediately before Lady Maria, which is basically a joke. And it is actually a joke. Because you have a boss fight, and then the literal next room is Lady Maria's boss fight. Basically, everything up to there is not that difficult, like vaguely annoying at times.
Yeah.
There's that boss fight. Then there's the Lady Maria boss fight, which is amazing, and everything after that is bullshit.
So you get like fish people.
Every single thing after Lady Maria is utter bullshit. If that entire DLC had ended at Lady Maria, I would be way happier with it. But you go to like the fishing village afterwards, and all of the enemies are like weirdly difficult, considering like where you are at that point, especially on like even on just like new game, like you're already like, especially like you did it where I was already like ridiculously strong, because I was like level 120 by that point or whatever, because I've never cared about being like leveled correctly for things. I've always just gone however I wanted. The fishing village is ridiculously hard, especially with the giant fish boys. And then you get through all that and you get to Orphan of Cause, and Orphan of Cause is ridiculously difficult. And this entire section to me wasn't worth it, to be honest. It wasn't worth it for the feeling I got at the end of it. I was just like, oh yeah, it's done now, okay. Whereas Lady Maria was great.
Yeah. That's so you're saying I should go back and get good. And
Well, actually, no, I'm not. I'm saying the opposite. I don't know if it's worth it. Because there is one really difficult boss fight where you're at now.
At least for Lady Maria.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, there is one really difficult boss fight where you're up to now. Then there's a kind of boring section. Then there's one really good boss fight. And then the entire rest of it is kind of shit. So it's like, is it worth you spending another 10 hours of kind of shit to do one really good thing?
Yeah.
Like,
it's a good question.
Like, I don't know if I could justify it knowing knowing what's coming. I don't know if I could justify it to myself. Like, you might enjoy it more because, like, at least from the Hollow Knight stuff you were saying, you enjoyed the challenge a bit more, but...
Yeah, but I felt like... I just think we kind of disagreed on how fun of a challenge the Moth Lady...
Yeah.
Whatever. I forgot. Radiant is.
But yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though, is that if you found that more fun than I did, that somewhat implies that you enjoy difficulty more than I do. In which case, you might derive greater enjoyment from the more difficult sections of this than I did.
Yeah, but I think it's hard to make that comparison like that because they're such different games. Mm-hmm. Because I enjoyed, like, the reasons I enjoyed Radiant's challenge is not the same reason that I enjoy any of the challenge in Bloodborne. Because they're kind of inherently different. Yeah. But yeah, I've been thinking about, I say I like games that are really challenging, but I really just play those games on normal, and they're challenging to me. Like, I played through all the Devil May Cries on normal, and I was like, that was challenging. That felt challenging. And it's like, oh wait, there's way more that I could do that's way more challenging, but I don't know if I would enjoy that as much.
Yeah. No, I
went back to play Halo 1 on Heroic, which isn't even the highest difficulty, and I hated it. And I loved Halo 1 the first time I played through it.
I'm like pretty similar on that sort of stuff. Like if anything, I'm worse in the same. Well, not worse, but you know, like I tend to play a lot of stuff on like normal or easy because like I don't care about playing it on hard, and I think it sort of talks to why I play games. I play games because I want the experience, not because I want the sort of like challenge from it. So I want to get the experience of what the game is like. I want to want to learn the story. I want to spend time in the world. I
So,
don't really care about being like challenged by the game as it plays.
would it be fair to say, like in the case of the Radiant, that challenge didn't feel like it was enough of the experience to be worth it?
Yeah, like it felt like it was
Yeah.
challenging, but I didn't feel like the payoff was going to be worth the challenge, so I didn't care enough.
Yeah, so like that's kind of my thing with Devil May Cry. Like DMC 3 was a very challenging game for me on normal,
Yeah,
right? But it felt like that was the experience that was meant. And then there it's like, hey, here's some extra harder things if you want to go crazy on it.
yeah,
You know, it's why normal is often what people say is like the developer intended setting, or
yeah.
sometimes, you know,
Mhm.
and there's a whole conversation to be had with that of like what the developer intended and what challenge, you know.
Yeah, I've spoken to some people that I know about stuff like this, and it's surprising that a lot of people who make games that I know completely disagree with um what the like general public think in this sort of respect. A lot of like you remember all the stuff about Sekiro, like being too hard and like it should have an easy mode in that.
Yes.
I was thoroughly of the opinion that yeah, should have an easy mode, fine. Like if more people get this experience, that's great. Like why is that a bad thing? But a lot of people were arguing that it's not what the developer intended. The developer intended it to be difficult in that. And it's like, I understand this viewpoint. I just disagree with it. But at the same time, there was a further argument that people were having where it was like giving it an easy mode like dilutes the developer vision and a lot of that stuff. And it's like a lot of developers weren't saying anything about it. But it's weird because like there was people who I spoke to privately about that sort of stuff, and they all tended to agree that like yeah, it can have an easy mode and that'd be fine, and it'd be worth it if it means more people get to play your games because that's just good.
Yeah.
Like I want more people to experience my things, and if having an easy mode or having more accessibility options makes that easier, it should be there. Like it's just weird because like they were not saying this stuff publicly but saying it mostly quite privately, and it was just like weird to see.
Well, it's yeah, everyone, that the whole kind of developer intention thing is the kind of hot word or the buzzword of
Yeah.
a lot of those kind of arguments.
Mhm.
And I think if a developer intends to make a punishing or hard game, I mean that like that doesn't exclude them from including an easy mode. It doesn't
No.
exclude, you know, and it doesn't devalue games with easy modes.
Mhm.
Um, but I would like to know in games with difficulty what is, if any, like what the developer is like. I always just assume that that's what normal mode is. Like this is what the developer
Yeah.
decided, and
Well, to some extent, that's why I like the God of War difficulty options,
mhm.
where it wasn't like easy, medium, and easy, normal, and hard or whatever. It was like give me a story and then give me a challenge and give me God of War,
Yeah,
because it was like I played it. I started on give me a challenge and then I went to give me a story because I wanted a story.
yeah,
I enjoyed playing the game, but I wanted a story. I wanted to know what happened in this world. Whereas other people,
yeah. And that gameplay in God of War is not the best, so I can see like
yeah,
why someone would want to just be like, yeah, I just want to play it.
yeah. Was that's the thing is like I like things like that because it gives you some more idea, less than saying like easy, normal, and hard, because that's just like what does this mean? Whereas the other one is like literally like this one will be relatively challenging but give you some struggle, whereas this is like the true experience, whereas this is the story of the game with everything else made like it still exists but it's minimal.
What is the what's the one? Do you wanna go for a hike or do you wanna climb a mountain?
I recognize it, but
That's that's Resident Evil
right,
1,
okay.
I think. That was their difficulty. It asked you, do you wanna go on a hike or do you wanna climb a mountain?
Mhm. Now actually, just thinking about this real quick, like to some extent I feel kind of weird about this because I would never have finished Celeste without the accessibility options. But at the same time, I believe that the accessibility options in Celeste made the game worse for me, but I also believe that I wouldn't have made Celeste that hard in the first place. So it's like I have like conflicting feelings on it, because it's like I understand why the game is hard because it helps the narrative, but I also understand that the accessibility options help more people play it and helped me get through the game faster. Not faster, but just helped me get through the game at all. But I also think that by having the accessibility options there, I ended up not only not really getting the true experience out of it, but also not particularly caring about the experience. And I actually cared less about all of it as a whole because of that.
So do you wish that you played through the game without those accessibility options?
No, because I know I wouldn't have done it. I would never have done it. I actually dropped it and then only went back because I watched someone else play it, well, some of it, with the accessibility options, and I was like, they are having a much better time than I ever did. So I went back and played it with that. But the point is that like playing it with the accessibility options, what it didn't do was what it did was make the game easier. But what it also did was make me see the challenge, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I could see where this was hard, but then there was times when I was like, but why is this hard? Like there were times when like, especially towards the very end of the game, like one of the last puzzles involves you like, I won't spoil it, but it involves you.
No, I've played it.
You have.
Yes, I've played through it all the way.
I'll spoil it then, but just let people know that I'm going to do it. I should probably put like timestamps in somewhere.
Maybe, yeah.
So yeah, what I was getting at was the bit at the end where you're like, I know she doesn't have a canon name, but when you're like jumping around and like baddies catching you in the air and throwing you up in the air, right? There were bits of that where I was like, this is utter bullshit. Why is this what the game expects of you? Because it was like you had to. The first few of them were like jump, she'd throw you straight up in the air, you'd like dash up, she'd catch you again, and she'd throw you straight up in the air. I was like, all right, yeah, that's kind of cool. Then one of the later ones was like you dash, and then she throws you up, you dash to the left, she throws you up, you have to dash to the right, she throws you right, you dash up, and then like it was just this weird like zigzag pattern.
Yeah, I remember
which
that.
all ended up with her just throwing you straight up in the air. I'm like, why? Like this entire section did not need to exist, because she could have just caught you in the center and she'd just thrown you up. There is no reason, like narratively, for this to have happened. This literally only exists for it to be challenging. And it's like, that's the sort of stuff where I don't enjoy it. There is stuff where it's like, the shape of the mountain, yes, bits of it are going to be harder to climb than others. I get that. But when it's stuff like, there's like a tunnel here and you're just refusing to take it for no reason, like what is the narrative sense of that? It's just challenging for the sake of it being challenging, and that having the accessibility options on there, which let me skip those bits, actually just made me more frustrated that they existed at all.
It's interesting. Celeste is I love that game. And maybe I do like challenge and in my games. And
yeah, well, it's for one, it's a relatively common way, but for another, it's like totally reasonable to like take the enjoyment through the challenge of things. It's just that
it's very specific games though, for whatever reason. Like I love Celeste. Not a huge fan of Super Meat Boy though.
No, I don't particularly like Super Meat Boy.
And I think in a lot of cases it comes down to how good the game feels. Really determines how much I enjoy the challenge.
Yeah.
Right? So like Devil May Cry is a great example. Game feels great. Game feels amazing. Except 1 and 2, like Devil May Cry 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
All feel really great, and I can accept a higher level of challenge because I feel a higher level of control.
Yes.
Same with Celeste. I feel a higher level of control over the game in Celeste than I do something like Super Meat Boy. And so in that way I can kind of make myself do challenges more because it's like I am exerting control. It's not just that it feels unfair, that it feels like
I think to some extent, this goes to a sort of design point that I've always been like a strong proponent of. I believe that all of the challenge should come from your understanding of something. So I don't. So the reason I was getting frustrated with Celeste so much was because I could understand how to do the challenge, but could not physically pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my issue.
Yeah.
I could not get from the understanding to physically doing the motions and physically getting to the things that I wanted to within the game world. And that was where my frustration lies. I believe all of the challenge should come through you developing the understanding of what the issue is. Whereas a lot of the challenge in games like this are in you like doing like specific, like not motions, but like having specific timings, having very like precise movement and stuff like that. And I don't enjoy that because I'm really bad at it. And I get that that's just me being bad at things. And I understand why these things exist. I understand that there are a subset of people who do enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I can't stand it. And it means that like it actively gets in the way of my enjoyment of things that otherwise I would like.
Yeah, I get that. And that's interesting that you bring up that the whole understanding thing and how, because I was just thinking about part of what made Celeste so interesting to me is that the execution almost felt like a physical puzzle.
Yeah.
Right? Like I would understand that my character has to do this, and then there was a second level of understanding for me of how I do that.
Yeah.
And so that's different from the kind of understanding that you were talking about, I think.
I mean, to some extent it is, but
because it's an understanding of you're right, and maybe for some people it's not an understanding. For some people it is just a straight up accessibility thing. They cannot pull those things off.
Yeah.
Physically, whether just because of motor function or there's all sorts of reasons. So I'm not saying get good at Celeste, but
yeah,
like for me personally, I felt like Celeste was kind of an execution. The puzzle was in the execution itself.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like for a lot of those games is that I like that I like that feeling that you said you don't like of like I understand what I have to do.
Yeah.
Now let me figure out how I do that. And I mean that's just different design preferences and things. I play every JRPG on an easy mode.
Yeah.
Just because I feel because there's no execution there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no execution challenge, no execution puzzle, except for like Paper Mario or whatever that have things like that.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of the new one actually. It's not great so far.
Yeah, I was just gonna watch somebody play it.
Yeah, I played first half hour the other day and then did my stream of it, and then I was just like,
yeah, I saw you posted.
It's weird because at the end of the first half hour I was like, wow, this is really good. And then at the end of my stream I was like,
at the end of the stream,
because like it's got stuff in it that reminds me of like 1,000 Year Door. Like the world reminds me of that a lot, but it's got the exact same issues as the last few Paper Mario games where there is no point in the combat.
Right.
Like it is just a waste of time because like there is again no XP. It's all just coins that you use to buy items.
So,
and I'm just like,
yeah. So like you could avoid enemies and you would not be put behind, or you wouldn't be.
You could, but because of generally where the enemies are, you can't. So it just feels like the game is constantly wasting your time.
That's that's rough.
Yeah, like I know other people have been enjoying it, and I'm like, I kind of wish I was enjoying it more because I really like Paper Mario, but it's just kind of a shame.
Well, I mean, there was a small group of people that really enjoyed Color Splash too.
Yeah, but they're weird.
And well, yeah. And I enjoyed watching Vinny Vinesauce play Color Splash because I thought the world was interesting, even though it was all toads. But I still thought it was well written and thought it was an interesting game. But I wouldn't buy it.
No.
And I feel kind of the same for Origami King so far.
Yeah, like I feel pretty much like that. Like I bought it because I wanted it, and now I've bought it, and I'm like, I'm probably not going to touch it again.
I think that's probably we were right over the 3 hour mark, but
Yeah,
I do need to be heading off.
no, that's fine. So
So I appreciate you podcasting me out to the world.
yeah,
Um,
well, probably by the time this goes out, you'll be doing me a bigger favor by being on this in the first place anyway. So
no, I mean, I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed
yeah,
being here.
that's good. Like, do you want to plug how people can contact you and not contact you, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, my YouTube channel is youtube.com/Mr. NES Dude. It's an old name. I'm trying to get it changed. And I'm sure it'll be in the description of whatever this is.
Yeah, I'll make sure to put it in.
And then Twitter at cap_Garrison.
Okay, well, I will link both of those in the description.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my YouTube channel changed to the address changed to Captain Garrison or just Jack Cornelius or something.
Well, if it's still what it used to be, it was 100 subscribers would let you get a custom channel URL.
Yeah, so everybody go subscribe.
Yeah, I've been trying to get to that for 3 years at this point. I'm just over a third of the way there. Just over a third of the way.
It's a hustle.
Thanks for listening if you did.
Thank you, thank you.
I'll make sure to have links to all of Garry's stuff in the description. A special thanks to Heaven Over Hell and Justin Wood for giving me money on Patreon. At the moment, there are still 3 places left on the board, so you can get in on the board if you'd like. After that, there will only be shareholder positions. It's the same price, but you get more shit if you're part of the board. But there will only ever be 5 spaces.
Give him money.
Yeah, please.
He deserves it. He makes way better content than I do.
That just strictly isn't true. I just make a hell of a lot more content than you do.
Yeah, I mean that's
it's lower quality, but there's a hell of a lot more of it. Yeah, so thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. I'll do one of these again at some point, maybe, I suppose. All right, thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I'd be down to do it again.
Oh, yeah, we'll get you back on sometime because it was fun talking to you for this long.
Sure thing.
Okay, bye.